sway with the microphone.
Hello, Sylvia. I like your little. How are you? Good.
Before we start our town board meeting, we're just going to honor a few individuals.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'd like to invite up Elizabeth Osawicki. Elizabeth, would you please come forward? Elizabeth is a very impressive person, not just because she's from my district, from Franklin Square, but as you all know, nearly 18 million women have reported sexual assault during the last 2 decades. That begs the question of how could this happen and what more can we do to combat that. And that's one of the things that Elizabeth has been in the forefront of, is educating people and combating situations that make women unsafe in any environment, whether it be the workplace or just in the community. And that I believe that people like Elizabeth are important to our community because we need people who are willing to stand up, take a position and say that this is wrong, we're not going to let it happen, and fight for the rights of women to be safe, again, in the business place and in the community. Elizabeth, I would like to congratulate you. We have a citation for you. And Supervisor, would you like to say anything?
Elizabeth, I would just like to thank you for educating so many in our community about the issues relating to consent. We know that this is a very hot issue right now, but it is a problem that has persisted for years, and with the efforts of people like you, we're educating women to speak up and speak out against this behavior. So I thank you, and I commend you do for our residents in the town of Hempstead. Thank you. Okay, and I'm really very, very pleased to honor this morning 2 of our Town of Hempstead employees, Brendan Gersten and Damien Gallo, who made us so proud by winning gold medals at the Special Olympics. I know that everybody here in Town Hall and every member of our town board are so proud of you, and I'd ask our town council members to come down and take a picture as we present these citations to Damien and Brendan. We thank you for your efforts. Thank you for making us proud. Keep up the good work, and we look forward to another gold next year. All right. Good morning and welcome to this regularly scheduled town board meeting. For those of you who have never attended one of our meetings before, we will begin with public hearings followed by an administrative calendar. There are meeting agendas in the rear of the pavilion. If you'd like to be heard on any issue, please go to the back and fill out a slip and hand it to one of our public safety officers. Meeting is adjourned. We will remain in session, as is our custom, for 350 years to listen to constituents on any other matters about which they'd like to address the town board. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino, Councilman Blakeman, Councilman Diaz-Bazito, Councilman Dunn, Senior Councilwoman King Sweeney, Supervisor Gillen,
Here.
and also in attendance this morning we have Receiver of Taxes Donald X. Clavin.
I now ask Councilman Diaz-Bazito to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody please stand. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first public hearing?
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Oceanside, Seaford, and Woodmere.
I do not have any slips on this matter. Who wishes to be heard? Sorry.
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the item be adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino, Councilman Blakeman, Councilman Diaz-Bazito, Councilman Dunn, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, Councilwoman King Sweeney, Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the second public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Roosevelt and Seaford.
I do not have any slips on this matter. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino, Councilman Blakeman, Councilman Diaz-Bazito, Councilman Dunn, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, Councilwoman King Sweeney, Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Seaford near Valley Stream.
I do not have any slips on this matter. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion on this item?
Supervisor, I move that the item be closed and adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino, Councilman Blakeman, Councilman Diaz-Bazito, Councilman Dunn, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, Councilwoman King Sweeney, Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next public hearing?
Proposed local law regarding vehicle speed limits in Island Park, Austin Boulevard.
I have a number of slips on this one. Rosemarie Bovino. Please state your name and address for the record.
Rosemarie Bovino, Superintendent of Island Park Schools, 99 Radcliffe Road, Island Park. I want to thank the Town Board for hearing our proposal, or your proposal, but the request that we made regarding the reduction of speed limit on Austin Boulevard from 40 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour. Over the years that I've been superintendent, I will tell you that there have been numerous occasions where there have been very serious as well as fatal accidents on Austin Boulevard, and numerous occasions when we've had to move, the police have had to move victims to our playing fields at the Lincoln Orange Middle School so that they could be airlifted to Nassau University Medical Center. It's a horrible situation, obviously, for the victims, but it's also a very, very horrible situation for the children who we have to bring in from the fields in order to have these individuals airlifted. I also want to point out that it's very difficult for our elementary school children who are on the west side of the boulevard to actually cross the road to get over to Shelter Creek Park. And even the police have a very difficult time getting the cars to slow down so that with crossing guards and cars, we can get the children across. I really do believe it would make a big difference in terms of the quality of life, not only for the children of Island Park, but I think also for all of our commuters who are trying to get across from the Long Island Railroad Station to the other side. So I thank you very much for considering this, and again, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I have Patty Ambrosia.
Patty Ambrosia, 239 Sunset Avenue, Island Park. So I am against switching our speed limit from 40 to 30. Nassau County has done a study on the road. Hopefully this year they will start to do construction on Austin Boulevard. And I think that the community with our school district, we need to hold off until after that study is complete, not the study, the construction. The study did not say that the road should go down to 30. The road is dangerous, but it's the drivers, it's the texting, it's everything else. I need to get to where I'm going. We may not have enough police present on the boulevard. I'm for, there's lights that the kids and adults need to cross at. Maybe they need to go, a longer time, just until after the study is complete. Not the study, the construction. If the county thought that the road should go down to 30, it would be in that study, which it is not. So I think we just need to see the new road. They're going to be changing lanes, going three-way to the south and two lanes to the south and 3 lanes to the north. So I think we just need to wait and see what happens before this is completed. I'm probably the only one going to speak out against it, but I just want to be heard.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I have Jack Vobis.
Good morning. My name is Jack Vobis. I live at 190 Franklin Avenue in Island Park. I speak to you today not only as a resident, but also as the president of the Island Park Board of Education. I'd just like to reiterate what Dr. Bovino said with regard to the speed limit, and first of all, thank the board for bringing this to a quick the resolution so quickly to the board after our petition to lower the speed limit. One of the main reasons for lowering the speed limit, as Dr. Bovino said, is safety. The children first, and then also drivers, residents, anyone that needs to use the road on Austin Boulevard. I'm not going to go over the litany of accidents and fatalities and injuries that have occurred, how many cars we have to see overturned in the middle of the road. It really is something that can't wait. There's no reason to wait. We can always raise the speed limit back if we need to, if the road is improved and conditions permit. But I think at this time it's really important for especially with the close proximity of our middle school, less than 200 feet or 300 feet from Austin Boulevard, that 30 miles per hour certainly is not anything that's going to really interfere with anyone's day, especially with the stretch of road being approximately a mile or a mile and a half. We're talking about seconds as far as slowing someone down to get from one end to the other. So I urge the board to adopt this resolution. I also would just like to mention there is some collateral benefits to this also. As we know, that stretch in Island Park is I would say undeveloped as far as economic status goes. There are a lot of empty stores. There are a lot of businesses that could use the business. And one of the side benefits of traffic and slowing people down is that they get to look around, they get to stop, they can have a cup of coffee, they can get a sandwich, maybe some new stores will open. Right now, all we have on Austin Boulevard are body shops, and that's really ironic because that's really what we need on Austin Boulevard right now, body shops, because of all the accidents. So again, thank you to the board. I urge you to consider this and adopt the 30 mile per hour speed limit on Austin Boulevard, and I think it'll benefit Island Park, not only safety-wise, but also economically.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I have Allison Blanchette.
Oh, okay.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Allison Blanchette, 323 East Chester Street, Long Beach. I am here representing Long Island Streets. I'm the executive director. We are a nonprofit organization advocating for safer, more accessible streets for pedestrians, people on bikes, for drivers, for everyone who uses our roads. And we do that through education, community empowerment, and legislation. I'm here to support this speed reduction. We know speed kills. It's not an accident. I'd also like to encourage you to say crash, not accident, because these aren't accidents when people speed. These are deliberate decisions. People on bikes, people walking, all ages have an inherent right to access our streets without being maimed or killed. Your survival rate goes down if you are going to be hit if you're hit at 40 miles per hour versus 30 miles per hour. You have a fighting chance of survival. I'd also, I'm looking forward to the day when I can come here and testify on behalf of reducing the 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour, because quite frankly, your risk of death goes down dramatically, even from 30 to 25. I would like to encourage you all to adopt this. And I would also like to thank whoever put this forward. I would like to thank the people involved in this. It takes a little spine for an elected official or elected officials to come forward with reducing speed limit, because it's not politically sexy to take away some drivers' feelings that they have a right to speed. So it's not very popular. So I'd like to thank whoever did that and acknowledge Lido Boulevard just did this, and it's really tremendous. And I believe you may have been responsible for that. And
I appreciate your comments on Lido Boulevard. It was so important. The community, for the most part, was behind it, but there was some vocal opposition. So I do appreciate your comments. I never realized there would be such opposition to trying to lower a speed limit when there was a school in the neighborhood, but there was. So thank you.
opposition is because people are uneducated, and I come here not with anecdotes or feelings. I come here with a data-driven approach, and the data supports reducing speed limits. You will have less people maimed or killed. And the besides personal loss, the economic consequences to the county, to Hempstead, when you do have crashes, it's in the millions per year. So I would like to thank whoever is doing all of this, because this is not an easy thing to do, but it's a smart thing. And I really encourage all people to use data-driven approaches to traffic safety, not anecdotes, not personal feelings if someone needs to get somewhere quicker, because that's, I mean, I'm talking about our inherent rights versus revocable privileges of getting someplace fast. So please approve this.
Thank you. And I just wanted to point out, Councilman Diaz-Bazito is a resident of Island Park and moved this item forward.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this?
Morning, Mita J. Meriday, Baldwin resident. I'm always interested in safety and always curious as to the origins of these types of proposals. Living in Baldwin, basically 4 houses away from Grand Avenue, or I should say Grand Prix Avenue, where we have the signage, we reduced the speed limit, we've posted the signs like this, and it makes absolutely no difference in the speeders who go down there. Our high school is off of Grand Avenue. We have an elementary school there, actually 2 on either side of Grand Avenue. I myself have almost been mowed down by parents who have been trying to beat that same 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, which was reduced from 30, to pick up their children. So you can put all the documents, you can put all the signage that you want to. If you're not backing it up with enforcement, it really is not going to make much of a difference. So I encourage all those who make these decisions and these proposals to think carefully about doing something on a more collaborative effort, as opposed to this constant one shot, let's see how this works, and then when it doesn't work, taxpayers' dollars are still being implicated, and you have not addressed the solution. And when I hear about any road work in Nassau County or the town of Hempstead being done, I am terrified because we now have a pothole situation that has been characterized in Newsday. When you are in the cartoon editorial section of Newsday, when they're talking about putting on swimming trunks and doing cannonballs in the potholes, we have a serious situation. So when we're talking about doing this type of thing and road work and road safety, let's look at the big picture. Let's take a step back for a change. Let's try to save the taxpayers some money and save those of us who have to come to these meetings week after week to plead for the efforts, because we're literally the ones on the ground to address these issues in a collaborative standpoint where you are incorporating law enforcement, where you're working with the community groups as well as the educators and the administrators to try to address this situation. Because again, I'm a living witness that the signage and all that you're putting on paper means absolutely nothing in reality. We are wearing out signs in Baldwin because they're just flashing the speed limit. They're doing 30, 40. I mean, I try to do 15, and I almost feel like I'm the old lady in the middle of the road being mowed down by the people who are trying to, again, as we say, trying to get their kids from the school, or trying to, or you have children that literally try to play chicken in the middle of the road. I myself have had to stop my car and get out and talk to the young people about making sure that they cross the street in the time period, because we put up those delayed crossing signs to give people enough time to cross the street. But if they're standing in the middle of the street intentionally, there's a problem. So let's look at the big picture, okay? Let's take a step back, because too much is happening now that we're not addressing it, and we're just throwing these quick fixes out here. It may be politically correct, it may be promotionally sexy for the newspaper, but it's really not addressing the issue. And let's get the town and the county together to deal with the potholes in this situation. We're paying all these construction companies, we're paying for all of this road work, and the roads in this area are atrocious. Let's fix the major problems. Let's get this right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard?
Felix Bucacci, 1165 Barn Street, Franklin Square, New York. I was going to speak on this, but I was just recently at a Garden City meeting, and they're trying to get the county to put speed cameras in certain areas, especially Stewart Avenue. And you could watch it on my website. I think it's the February 6th meeting, where they put the signs in, and the people are still speeding. A woman came forward, and her car was totaled right in front of her children, in front of her house, when she was turning into a driveway. The enforcement, all these, great ideas, and I agree with the slower speed limit. But the thing is, then you get the difference in speed, which is really the killer, because now you got the people going fast and the people who are abiding by the law, and you got the problem. So the enforcement, the education of the drivers, it's a really tough problem. And I encourage you to watch the video, the Garden City meeting, the first meeting in February, because they really discussed it at depth. I mean, there was no clock on anyone talking about it, and they're really trying to work at it. The mayor, the trustees, and they're all, discussing it in a meeting, setting. And I think, you have to have more of that, and you have to really educate the drivers, because just giving the tickets. I remember we gave out thousands of tickets when Nassau had the great idea of putting the speed cameras in front of the schools, and it was nonsense. I mean, it really was just a money generator. It didn't really solve the problem. Now people were going 20 miles an hour, and they were going too slow, to cause problems. That also caused the problem. So I think it's great to do it. I mean, I'm all for it. If everyone went 30, that'd be great. But you have to somehow get people to actually abide by the law, and that's really the tougher nut to crack. Thank you.
Richard Sherman, 167 Jefferson Avenue, Island Park, New York. Austin Boulevard is one of the most dangerous roads on Long Island, I believe in the state. On average, one person pedestrian is literally killed on the 2-mile stretch of Austin Boulevard. It's been the case for the last dozen years. The Island Park Civic Association for decades, for literally 20 years or more, has been advocating for the boulevard to be redesigned and redone. And the study was done, as Ms. Ambrosia said, many, many years ago. Plans were in place, and for various reasons, the work has been stalled, delayed, literally for decades. As a result, people have been killed, literally killed, once a year, as I said. There was a pedestrian killed on the road last October. I went and spoke at the Nassau County legislative meeting to Denise Ford and all the other legislators at that time and urged them to commence work on the project as soon as possible. Then the project was delayed again for another 2.5 years. Basically, what I'm getting at is this is a serious, ongoing calamity in Island Park that Island Park has suffered with for decades. The reducing of the speed limit is fine. Whether or not it will have a material difference or not, I do believe that the study that was done that took extremely long time and many, many millions of dollars to be done will have an effect. And I know it's not your jurisdiction, but I would urge you in whatever PR statements you put out in promoting this reduction in the speed limit to mention that and to urge Nassau County to finally act and proceed with their plans in doing that. So I'm just asking you to take this opportunity to tie it together with what's been going on for a very long time and urge them to get it done so more people aren't killed, literally killed. My children cross that road, all the time, and other children as well. And it's, it's one of the most dangerous roads in the state. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who would like to be heard on this item?
Supervisor, if I may, I have 2 letters that would like to be read into the record, if that's all right. The first is from another school board member, Kathleen McDonough. Dear Town Hempstead board members, good morning. I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you why I strongly encourage you to lower the speed limit on Austin Boulevard and Island Park. As a lifelong resident, I have had firsthand experiences of the dangers speeding vehicles on Austin Boulevard have caused. For 50-plus years, my family have owned a home on Georgia Avenue, which is located between Long Beach Road and Austin Boulevard. During this time period, we have witnessed many vehicular accidents and more than a few times almost become a statistic. Heading south on Austin Boulevard, there is a bend in the road before Georgia Avenue. Vehicles traveling at high rates of speed above the posted 40 miles an hour are sometimes unfamiliar with the bend and are caught off guard as they do not anticipate a traffic signal. Therefore, many vehicles proceed through the red traffic signal unable to stop in a timely manner. Last year alone, while waiting at the traffic light, my mother and I witnessed a man traveling at a high rate of speed around the bend collide into a motorcyclist who had proceeded out of the side street. Georgia Avenue and Austin Boulevard alone count for an average of 2 vehicular accidents per calendar year. While most of my comments pertain to Georgia Avenue and Austin Boulevard, I can assure you that they are not limited to this one location, rather widespread throughout the entire boulevard. Now, as a parent of 2 small children, I cringe having to travel Austin Boulevard with them. Whenever possible, I will travel on Long Beach Road through the incorporated village of Island Park to avoid the potential dangers. In addition, when walking to patronize local businesses from my mother's home on Georgia, we choose to walk down Long Beach Road rather than one house away on Austin Boulevard because the vehicles tend to travel at the posted speed limit of 30 miles an hour. The potential dangers are too significant to risk taking a chance along the boulevard. Austin Boulevard can be compared to driving through an obstacle course. Vehicles regularly race down Austin Boulevard, traveling above the posted limit at 50 to 60 to 70 miles an hour during the day. Delivery and tow trucks often idle in the center turning lanes, obstructing your view. Drivers can regularly be seen making illegal U-turns and lane changes without warning, sudden stops to turn into an establishment or to avoid a pothole, etc. Tragically, many lives have been lost on average 1 a year recently, or altered because of vehicular accidents along the boulevard. I encourage you to honor the safety request so that we hopefully put an end to this. Residents should be able to walk to our parks, restaurants, and schools without endangering their lives from speeding vehicles. As a Board of Education trustee with the Island Park Schools, I would like to personally thank Councilman Diaz-Bazito for bringing this speed limit to a vote today. Therefore, I implore you to listen to community safety concerns as well as cast your vote today to approve lowering the speed limit to 30 miles an hour. That's Kathleen McDonough, member of the school board. The next is from the PTA. The Island Park PTA would like to express our gratitude knowing that Austin Boulevard Raceway issue is being addressed. As parents first, we have major concerns of the safety and security for the children of Island Park. Many of these students attend Lincoln Orange Middle School, which is just a few feet away from Austin Boulevard. While we do see 40-mile-an-hour signs on the road, cars and trucks continue to ignore the speed limit. Due to the speeding, we have seen cars lose control, hit pedestrians, drive over curbs, hit poles, and even into storefronts. While we do appreciate the town of Hempstead's consideration of lowering the speed limit to 30 miles per hour, we would also like to see large yellow signs close to school grounds saying school zone and at 25 miles an hour. Look at Long Beach schools, for example. The school sits on a bay with at least 2 football fields between it and a building on the main roadway, yet they have a school zone limitation. Again, we thank you for addressing this matter, and we look forward to seeing the necessary changes for the safety of our community, but most importantly, for the safety of our children. Your efforts will not go unnoticed. With those 2 letters being read, I just want to thank not only different organizations in the community. I want to thank Dr. Bavino. I want to thank Jack Vobis from the school administration and the school board for standing behind this. I would also like to thank the help of legislator Denise Ford. And I also want to point out that I agree with many of the speakers that if these issues aren't addressed and the speed is not enforced, the signs do nothing. But I do feel confident with the recent change at the Nassau County Police Department. I have spoken to Commissioner Patty Ryder a few times on this issue. I've spoken to the commanding officer of the 4th Precinct, and I am confident. Just as they have stepped up enforcement on Lido Boulevard, I think that Austin Boulevard will have the enforcement needed to hopefully make the changes. It's always, I think, anytime we deal with speeds, we often compare it to Ocean Avenue in Malvern. When you come off that parkway, you know that you better slow down because you're probably going to get pulled over. So I think that that's where we're headed with this, and I just want to thank Commissioner Ryder for being understanding and for willing to put the resources necessary to really make this work. And the last thing I'd like to say is this probably will never happen again, but I actually do agree with Richie Shuren. The work that's being done or needs to be done on Austin Boulevard needs to be moved forward as quick as possible. And I hope that with changing the speed limit, hopefully we can move that a little bit expeditiously, and I just want to ask all my board members to support this measure. With that being said, I move that the public hearing be closed, and for the safety of the children and the community of Island Park, the item be immediately adopted.
Supervisor, I'd like to also second the motion for 2 reasons. One, Councilman D'Esposito is an expert in public safety, and he knows his district well. The second reason is personal. My parents met on a canal off of Austin Boulevard in Island Park, and if it wasn't for Island Park, I wouldn't be here, so I feel like I at least owe it to them to second it.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilman Ambrosino? Aye. Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn? Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Yes.
Councilwoman King Sweeney? Supervisor Gillen?
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item?
Proposed local law regarding real property tax relief for Cold War veterans in the town of Hempstead.
I have no slips on this matter. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard?
First of all, I do support this with regard to the extension and carrying this forward.
Can you just state your name
Sorry,
and address
Mita
for the record?
J. Meriday, Baldwin resident. Sorry. Without a doubt, I support this overall, but I continue to question what we are doing as a township with regard to making sure that our veterans are safe in their homes, addressing the high rate of foreclosure, the eviction process, and the trauma that ensues with that. Secondly, how are we effectively reaching out to all of the veterans and their families who are entitled to this when we have, and I've been told this over and over again, I'm supposed to be so encouraged by the fact that we have one veteran counselor, so to speak, for the township that has over 40,000 veterans. So how are we effectively making sure that all veterans are aware of this type of service and how they can effectively utilize it? Because I know quite a few of the veterans from the Cold War era, Korean War veterans, who don't even know that they're entitled to significant benefits as of legislation from 2008. So it's kind of hard when you have the one person with his support staff when he's working by appointment or if he's in the office and he has to handle one client trying to effectively reach 40,000 other veterans. So again, I question where we are as a community when we continue to incorporate the same types of initiatives over the last 5, 10, almost 15 years with no growth, no investment, and no expansion in the actual resources and day-to-day human capital to make this effective to the veterans who are struggling as we speak.
Can I respond to this? Just two quick things. One, I responded to your last meeting, and I'm not going to repeat everything I said last meeting because a lot of it's in the works. That's part one. Part two, what are we doing to let the Cold War veterans know? Our receiver of taxes has done mailings upon mailings to let veterans know about the conferences that he's having, workshops all over the town of Hempstead, and I've been included in some of them, and I'm sure quite a few of us council people have been there to hear and to share the knowledge of this, one, happening, and two, that we're going to continue it today. Hopefully we have the vote. I'm sure we have the votes today to continue this, but we're letting the people know through the mailings that you complained about, that our receiver of taxes have done, to let the people know. That's why we do the mailings, to exactly do what you are complaining about one time, and then you come here and say you're not doing it. So I don't know how to please you, but we're doing everything we can to let the veterans know.
Is it about pleasing me, or is it about doing the work that needs to be done for our veterans? It has nothing to do with pleasing me, and I don't take any comfort in having to come here.
We do the mailing, and you say don't do it.
We're not doing it. Where are the numbers? Where are the numbers? Where are the numbers?
Do you
know how many actually qualify for this?
Right here in front of us. Oh, you're
doing
the numbers. Mailings. What are you doing it for? This is exactly what we're doing it for.
The thousands of dollars that you spend, with all due respect, Councilman Dunn, the thousands of dollars that you spend in the mailings, which go sometimes to addresses that are zombie houses.
Yes,
with all due respect, I am on my time, and I did allow you to speak. If I can finish my statement. Thank you. The money, the millions of dollars that this township spent, largely more so than the actual county spent. This township spent millions of dollars, almost 3 times more than the county spent. What is the tracking on that? How many veterans of the estimated 40,000 veterans, one, actually would be eligible for this, 2, have actually applied for this, and 3, are actually benefiting from that? So can somebody, staff person here, can somebody...
If you had... Ms. Meriday, I believe 1,500, we have about approximately 1,500 veterans who have taken advantage of this program and are recipients of this aid. I think this is a good measure because of the change in state law, this enables us to make this a permanent program for our veterans. And if you have suggestions on ways we can communicate better to our veterans to make sure that all our Cold War veterans are able to take advantage of this, certainly I welcome your suggestions, and we will try to do more to make sure that even more veterans can take advantage of this program.
With all due respect, in my minute 59, since I've been told that I come here and complain about nothing getting done, I would love to actually, in one of those infamous and highly costly mailings, actually see the benchmark numbers. What is the actual number? What are we spending the money on to actually address these services? And if someone is going to tell me that I should be impressed because this group is working towards maybe incorporating 2 additional parking spots or free passes to our parks, I'm supposed to be impressed by that for our veterans? No, I'm not impressed. The veteran community is not impressed. So let it be said, no, I am not satisfied. And guess what? I will continue to complain. I will continue to have my voice heard. And whether change gets done here or in the election booth, change will happen. Thank you.
Now let me respond because I couldn't respond during your time. If you
I'm
would
all ears.
have attended any of the workshops that were helping veterans to secure this,
I was
you would
not
have gotten
invited,
those
so that
figures.
mailing must have missed my home. I was not invited. I was not included.
You got all the mailings,
Not the ones when you have different events that I read about in the paper.
and if you belong to a veterans organization or an auxiliary of a veterans organization, you'll find out that they get the
I
information.
find out that they are the ones who contact me, Councilman Dunn, when they have members who are about to be evicted, when they have
they call
members
you?
that, yes, they do. So do the elected officials. Yes, they do.
Really?
Yes, they do.
Well,
I don't remember seeing you in Nassau County the other week talking about the initiative that they were doing in Nassau County with regard to the police department. I didn't see you
the
there.
county does what they do, the town does what we do. And
Well, we
doing
pay
a heck of a
town
job.
and county taxes, so we are getting double dipped for the lack of services as it pertains to our veterans.
No.
So if you want to make sure that I get it, I'll make sure I give you my information. So let me see. I'm still looking for the numbers, like I said.
And let me tell you something.
Numbers
I've got
speak.
nothing but compliments about that thing that you're not impressed about. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to help the veterans. And you
You're
know
here
what?
to work.
They're
You're here to
telling me
serve
at the
the interests of
VFW,
the
at the American
taxpayer, of
Legion,
which I'm
at
included.
the AMVETS, at the Marine Corps League. They're telling me at church. They're telling me in the supermarket that, you know what, that was so nice. That parking spot really meant a lot to my husband, or it meant a lot to my son.
Okay,
That
well,
spot
let's
means something to
talk about-
somebody.
let me
It
talk
might not
about the
mean
vet-
anything
I
to
got
you,
7
but you know what? We're thinking of them. We're thinking of them. So that might keep them from doing what you are really,
Well,
proclaiming.
let's think about the Bayville veteran who's 84 years old, who's facing eviction and lost his wife 5 years ago. Let me see if that parking spot works for him. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this item?
Felix Procacci, 1165 Barn Street, Franklin Square, New York. I wasn't going to speak on this issue. Of course, I'm for it, but you asked for a suggestion about how we can inform veterans. I think that everybody gets our mailing for our bills, our tax bills, and the receipt after you pay it. So we get like at least 4, I think, a year. Depends. Make it very clear. One card, as wide as the envelope. When they open up the bill, the first thing they see is, are you a veteran? Here's the name of the veteran person at the town. Here's the name of the veteran person at the county. You're entitled to tax, benefits and everything. Here's the website. You could go and watch Don Clavin explain what you're entitled to. So it would be detailed. You could go online, or you could, on the back, you could say, okay, a phone number you could call. So then it'll be very clear, and it won't be an additional mailing. It won't be another piece of paper it'll be every time you have it, you get 4 mail for a year. So it's going to come in the mail, and it'll be very clear. It won't have a politician's name on it. It'll be for the benefit of the veterans. It'll be the same thing. You could do this for the senior citizen. Are you a senior citizen? Are you disabled? Whatever the benefits are, it'll be targeted toward that, and it'll be very inexpensive because most of it is the postage, and it'll all be in that same mailing. So they'll get 4 of those a year, and it'll just be a card, and it'll direct you to who you call to get more information. And it won't be the glossy pictures of the person or anything like that. It'll just be targeted information, what you need to know to get these benefits. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm scared to say this, but Felix, that's a great idea.
Is there anybody else who would like to be heard on this?
Just 2 points. Donna Kazazza, Rockville Center. With respect to the American Legions and the VFWs, I would say as a spouse of an American Legion member, a vice, whatever he is, commander, they really don't know much about the tax discounts and that. Wait, I want to tone it down a little bit. To be honest, I think an outreach program to each of the posts, they have a monthly meeting where all the county members go, and to educate them would be good. Because Felix, 80 and 90-year-olds, most of them are not going to be savvy to the internet, and they're not going to know that. two other points. One, my husband personally loves his little spot at Home Depot when he goes and he says, ooh, this spot's for me. So sometimes the veterans do like that little extra. But the other thing, the hidden treasure here is, believe it or not, this discount for the veterans, it doesn't go to the special district taxes. If you look at your tax bill, my county tax bill, 50% of my taxes are special taxes, special district taxes, and I do not get that discount. That's a lot of money, and that needs to be looked at because, to be honest with you, you volunteer firefighters, they get the discount for the school districts, but they're not reciprocal with respect to the special district taxes, and it starts in the town. And that's where the dollars come, and that's where it'll be helpful to the veterans.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard on this?
I'm Nancy Skeet. I reside at 841 Macon Place in Uniondale. I'm president of Uniondale Community Council Civic Group. My husband and I are both veterans, and my biggest concern is the taxes. Yes, we do get tax breaks. Yes, the town did give us a list of everybody that gives you a discount. However, we have a problem in Uniondale with overcrowding. Everybody wants to go to school in Uniondale, and our schools are so overcrowded that there are people in Northern Parkway, children, taking classes in the basement.
Ma'am, are you speaking? We're calling people to speak on the item
I understand that. They want to raise our taxes to expand the school, okay? I get my veterans discount, but however, the tax thing to expand the schools is going to cause my property tax to go up at least $200 a year. Lord knows what it's going to go up when they run the, in May when they run the regular, I'm sorry, when they run for school board and they run the regular budget. Lord knows what they're going to be. They're outpricing us, as veterans, we're not getting a break there. So I have to pay for people who overcrowd their houses, have 6 and 8 kids that don't all live and be related, and they should be rezoning us as commercial for all of those houses that are overcrowded. You know that because we can't find a place to park on our street. There's 10 bags of garbage at each house, and there's a limit of 5, supposedly. But nobody does anything. It's ridiculous. The other thing is, it's just, you'll end up losing a lot of people. The veterans at our post in Uniondale, there are only 2 members left on the board because they're dying and they're not being replaced. The young people don't even want to join the legions, so they're not all getting the benefits. So it's a real problem, a real issue. I don't know what you guys plan on doing, but rezoning for commercial, those houses would benefit our tax base. There's no reason when I count the number of people living in a house, I should stop at 18 in a single family zone. Anybody have any ideas? Is rezoning for commercial a good idea?
Ma'am, do you have anything else on the item that's on the agenda?
On this particular item, no, but I have another one. I'll be back.
Thank you. Councilman Ambrosino wanted to make a remark.
Supervisor, just to who spoke before on the inability of this legislation to extend to special districts? Who spoke on that? The reason is it's state legislation. We opt in. So the remedy, we agree with you. We would love to do it. We are not permitted to extend it beyond the ad valorem taxes. So the state legislation restricts you in only allowing you to impose the exemption on the ad valorem portion. If the state legislation were opt-in, allowed us to go with special districts, we would. It's similar to IDAs and other than that. Special districts are cut out. But that's really a remedy for Albany, but we will gladly join with you to lobby Albany to do that. But no, but it's drop in. In other words, it's opt in, state down, we opt in to what the state allows us to do. But the remedy is up in Albany.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
And I'd like to thank Dennis Dunn and Don Clavin on their leadership in bringing this item forward.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you call the next public hearing, please?
Proposed revised public parking field maps in Seaford.
I have no slips on this item. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Supervisor, I move that the hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you call the next public hearing, please?
Application of Bola EM Realty LLC for a variance from provisions of GSS ordinance to operate a convenience store at an existing gasoline service station, as well as area sign parking variance relief from the gasoline service station district required near Westbury.
Good morning, Madam Supervisor, fellow board members. My name is David Altman. I'm from the law firm of Harris Beach, PLLC. My address is 538 Hollow Road, Suite 301W, Melville, New York. I'm the attorney for the applicant. Seated to my right is Christopher Tartaglia from High Point Engineering. Chris and his firm are the civil engineers on the project. In addition, with me this morning, Madam Supervisor, is John Breslin from Breslin Real Estate. John is a licensed real estate appraiser and real estate expert. He's appeared before this board a number of times in terms of zoning and land use applications. And towards that end, Mr. Breslin has prepared a report in support of the application. I'm going to hand in an original, it looks like 8 or 9 copies of that report. In addition, I have with me this morning Frank Filicciotto. Frank is a licensed New York State engineer, and he is an expert in traffic engineering. Frank has also appeared before this board on many occasions, including related to BOLA matters that have previously come before the board. His firm has also prepared a report relative to the parking and traffic, particularly since this application seeks a parking variance, and I'll hand that into the record as well. For purposes of moving the application along, to the extent this board has any questions, where these gentlemen are certainly available to address and answer those questions on behalf of the board and anybody else in the audience. That being said, I have a few remarks, Madam Chair. I'll keep this brief. Many members on this board, and I hope the chair, the supervisor, is familiar with BOLA. BOLA is a well-recognized gasoline service station provider here on Long Island and throughout the New York metropolitan area. They are nationally recognized for their quality of service and the quality of the sites, and we have always sought to work with the town and have been warmly received, so we hope to continue that today. The application that's before this board relates to the property known as 865 Carmen Avenue in Westbury, New York. It is known by Nassau County Tax Map number Section 45, Block 440, Lot 7. It's at the southwest corner of Stewart Avenue and Carmen Avenue. The property is currently zoned Business X, and it is situated within the Gasoline Service Station, or GSS, Overlay District. The property has approximately 150 feet of frontage on Stewart Avenue and 181 feet of frontage on Carmen Avenue. The lot area is a little over 16,000 square feet. The southwest portion of the site, and the site tapers as you move southerly, is approximately, the southwest lot line is approximately 73 feet, and the western lot line, where the existing building is situated today, is approximately 126 feet. The property has been used as a gasoline service station for the better part of 50 years now, within a C of O, having initially been issued for a gasoline service station at the property on June 5th of 1970. That is C of O number 115209. There are a number of other certificates of compliance which are part of the record and part of the submission before the board today relative to that particular station. Prior town board approvals relative to this particular station go back to 1996, March 26 of 96, and that was resolution number 302 of 96, which included this station within the GSS overlay district, and it also allowed at that time for self-service, which the applicant does propose today. In addition, there were certain CNRs imposed in connection with that, which have already been submitted to the board. The station that exists today, the applicant proposes to raise and rebuild. We are putting in place, and instead of what exists today, a brand-new gasoline service station, which reflects the contemporary demands of retail gasoline service here on Long Island. There will be 6 fuel dispensers, which are going to be perpendicular to Stewart Avenue, providing 12 fueling positions. They are centrally located on the northern half of the premises, and you can see up on the video board to my left and to my right what's shaded in yellow beneath that canopy are the fueling pumps. There, in fact, will be a canopy where none exists today. That canopy measures 76 by 31, or approximately 2,356 square feet. The applicant does propose to construct a new structure, approximately 2,950 square feet, to be operated as a convenience store. And again, if you look on the video display boards, you'll see that convenience store situated on the southern portion of the site. In addition, the applicant proposes 9 parking stalls, including 1 ADA stall, to be on the north side of the convenience store. There will be an outdoor trash enclosure on the westerly portion of the convenience store. That trash enclosure is approximately 10 by 9 by 6, and in Bola's typical build, it is designed architecturally to match the building as well. You'll note that there are currently 2 curb cuts on Stewart Avenue and 2 on Carmen. With respect to Carmen, the applicant proposes to consolidate that into 1 right-in, right-out curb cut. With respect to Stewart Avenue, the westerlymost curb cut will remain right-in, right-out. With respect to the curb cut that is closest to the intersection on Stewart, the easterly curb cut, based upon comment that we've gotten back from Nassau DPW, we're going to modify what was initially submitted. We're going to narrow that curb cut, pull it a little further away from the intersection, and that's going to be right-out only. Now, one of the unique things about this particular site, if we have the ability to pull up an aerial, is this site is sort of isolated in that around it is pretty much, if we can, but if you're familiar with the site, around it to the west and to the south is undeveloped land. It's grass. It's part of the existing facility, which is to the west, which I believe is a Capital One bank. To the south on Carmen Avenue, you have mixed-use retail commercial with commercial centers on both the east and west side of Carmen. Directly across the street at the southeast corner, you have a mobile station, which has also been there for a number of years. That mobile station includes a mobile mart. And then on the north side of Carmen Avenue, you have fencing and then single-family residence. You can also see at the northeast corner the little vacant portion there. But we're not introducing a new use to the area. The use itself is well established with the gasoline service station, the motor vehicle repair service bays, and I think there are 3 there today, are going to be removed. We're not going to have auto repairs anymore, which is in keeping sort of with Bola's build. And we will be operating the convenience store in place instead. To the extent that this board has any questions of me, I'm happy to run through the list of variances. There are a number of them, but at least with regard to the modification of the curb cut itself, that particular variance is no longer, I believe, no longer required. Is that correct, Chris?
Correct. Just one quick question, too.
Sure.
The across the street on the north side, northwest side, is the back of houses. Is the lighting going to be different? It's going to shine in there into the back of their homes? I used to represent them when I was in the legislature, so I know the area very well. And I'm wondering if that's going to become a problem. Did you address the lighting that might be going into their back windows where the bedrooms are and stuff?
I appreciate the question, Councilman Dunn, and thank you for asking. My lay answer is no, but I'm going to turn it over to Chris Tartaglia to just explain the lighting and how it works.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Chris Tartaglia, principal owner of the firm High Point Engineering, appearing on behalf of the applicant. Councilman Dunn, with regard to your question on lighting, we have submitted a lighting design plan to the town as part of the review process. We do it on all applications within this township and others. But to your point, to answer your point, what our lighting plan indicates is that the lighting levels at our lot line on the south side of Stewart Avenue are all in the single digits, 1 to 2 foot candles. 1 to 2 foot candles is very dim. In fact, the lighting in this room here is probably in that 2 to 3 foot candles here at our property line on our side of the street would be representative of that. Across the street, by the middle of Stewart Avenue, we have 0. There's literally no light trespass beyond the near lanes in Stewart Avenue. All of the lighting is directed downward onto the subject property, and it'll be shielded in a flush manner, very similar to the lights in this room, where the bulbs don't protrude down below the surface of the lens. So in other words, that helps to keep light trespass and light directly downward, so there would be no impact on the properties across the street.
Okay, and if there is, by any chance, you can always put a shield there, correct?
Yes, and in fact, we are. The effect that I indicated with the lights being up flush within the housings themselves does create a natural shield, but absolutely, if there were ever any complaints or concerns, we would address it.
Thank you. You answered my question. Thank you.
Which picture?
We have all these photographs up here. Do you have this? Anthony, would you let him look at this? You have pictures down there?
Mr. President's report?
Anthony, where is he?
When were these taken?
When were these pictures taken? About 2 weeks ago?
Was that part, Anthony, was that part of the site inspection on the 27th? So I'll address that briefly because I know Councilwoman Gooseby always asks us to know. I'm happy to answer. So I know we are aware of the building department's or code enforcement site inspection on the 27th. And with respect to the issue of other vehicles and unused or unrepaired vehicles sitting on site, obviously that situation is going away as part of this redevelopment. In fact, I understand in speaking to Bola's offices on Friday and yesterday, I believe that the mechanic actually was clearing out his facility this past weekend. So a number of those issues will be addressed with regard to some of the open permits of record, and we noted that as well in the town, in some of the FOIL requests and the town reports. Those will all be addressed as part of the raise and rebuild here, along with the permitting for the new ground sign.
I think this should have been addressed before you came here with this application. This is terrible. What I see here is awful. And this is you're doing this for Bola?
That's all been cleaned up, Councilwoman.
All of it?
My understanding is it was, but I will verify.
Do any other members of the board have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. I have some members of the public who wish to be heard on this application. David Altman? Oh, sorry. Oh, wait. Does anybody else want to be heard on this matter?
Madam Supervisor, make a motion that we close the hearing and the item be adopted.
No, adopted?
No, reserved. Reserved decision.
Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino?
He's not here. He recused himself.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Super Gillen?
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you please call the decision calendar?
Yes, Supervisor. There is one item on the decision calendar, which is the application for Woodcrest Village Park Associates to rezone from Residence CA District to CA-S Residence District, west side of Rockaway Avenue, approximately 102.83 feet north of the northwest corner of Atlantic Avenue and Rockaway Avenue in Oceanside.
May I have a motion?
I move that the decision be granted.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino? Not here. Okay. Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the administrative calendar.
Supervisor, on the administrative calendar this morning, we have items 9 through 35. I also have a resolution of an urgent matter that reads, Resolution authorizing Anchors Electric Service, Inc. to perform emergency repair of street lights located at Town Hall Complex, 1 Washington Street, Hempstead, New York. This item will be item number 36 on the calendar.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would any members of the board like to sever any items?
I just have a question. Madam Clerk, I only have 34 items on my calendar. So is the new item 35 or 36?
The new item is 36. The new item is 36.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor, At the request of your office, I would like to adjourn items 10 and 12, and at the request...
Please, that's my job.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say anything.
I didn't say anything because you didn't call for it yet.
Would any council members like to sever any items?
Dorothy?
Okay. If anybody wants to sever, okay, I move the administrative calendar in its entirety with the exception of 10, 12, 20. And we're not moving 30 and 30. 10, 12, 20. Okay. Okay, 10, 12, and 20, which I move to remove from the calendar.
Second.
Okay, I have a number of slips of people who wish to be heard on the administrative calendar. First, we have Felix Procacci.
Yes, 10, 12, 20, I think is what I heard.
Yeah, 10, 12, and 20.
10, 12, and 20 have
10,
been
12, and 20.
Tabled.
Okay, so I'd like to, Felix Procacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square, New York. I'd like to speak on item number 30, the agreement for the private investigator services.
That has been removed, wasn't it?
That's 30. 20 is what was removed.
Okay.
30 has not been tabled. It's on the...
I'm sorry, you're right. Okay, Mr. Procacci.
Okay. I'm concerned about this only because we've had a number of investigations virtually since I've been here, since 2010. Internal investigations, very highly paid employees, usually sons and daughters of higher officials, Mineo, who have been investigators. Mr. Enright, I believe his wife still works here, I'm not sure. But the thing is, and there's been predominantly around the animal shelter. And when I have asked for those records, I have received, I'll just go to the most recent one, save time. Last year I asked for records regarding investigations. I was told that we'll delay it for 20 days because there was a voluminous number. I said, okay, fine. And then I was told again that it was a few days before it was due, that it was going to be delayed for 6 months till September. So then I says, well, I don't need all 1,000 pages, whatever it is. I says, can I give the titles of the investigations? No, we cannot give you the titles. Can I get the dates the investigation started and ended? No, we can't give you the dates they started and ended. So there is no check and balance for an investigation, internal investigation in the town of Hempstead. And also, I believe last year or the year before, I forget, we did hire private investigators. I didn't try to foil those records. The real question is, are they doing anything? And the results of those investigations, what happens to them and who's making decisions? Because, for example, with the animal shelter, we were told for months on end that there was a DA investigation. Meanwhile, the principals, the people who were accused of Diane Madden, Lucille Defina, and Francis Lucevero, who were accused of wrongdoing, and that's were banned from the shelter.
Felix, this is, Mr. Procacci, this is an item on the calendar to hire outside investigators, not internal investigators, about specific issues within our town attorney's office.
Oh, I get that. The question is, I'm giving an example of those so-called investigations where the public had no insight into how we spent town money. What happens to the work conducted that is produced by these investigators? Will the public be able to see what they've done? Will they get some feeling of what the investigation's about? Because there have been numerous complaints made here, and everything just goes into the wind and disappears, and there is no, we spend tens of thousands of dollars, possibly more, yet there's no accountability for it. Can you stop the clock? Joe Ra's talking. I mean, that's an example of, look, willful misconduct. Willful misconduct. She should be fired for this.
Felix, calm down. Let's stop the clock while they're concurring.
Yes, thank you.
She should be fired. Willful misconduct. It's a valid reason for firing somebody.
Felix, come on.
No, it's wrong. She's been doing this for 8 years.
You got your extra 10 seconds, Felix. We're not going to bridge your rights.
So, I'm sorry, I was listening to Mr. Ra. I mean, this is a specific, I can't speak to what happened with investigations in the past because I was not here. But what I've asked for outside investigators to look into 2 specific matters within our town attorney's office. They're matters that they will be investigated, and depending on what the results of that investigation are, you know, we'll see what happens. We don't know where the investigation is going to lead. At this point. But we have retained outside investigators so the public can have some confidence that independent people outside of Town Hall are looking into these matters.
Felix, excuse me, if I may. I think that we on the town board concur with the supervisor and, quite frankly, with the town attorney, who also was supportive of this measure, where there was an investigation in the town attorney's office to avoid the appearance of a conflict or an actual conflict. This private investigation firm will be used for that purpose and other purposes where we feel that we need an outside investigator. This investigation firm has no political ties to either party and is not even located in the town of Hempstead, and is made up of FBI agents, NYPD detectives, and Nassau and Suffolk detectives retired. So this is an attempt to make sure that there isn't a problem and that there isn't a conflict. And with respect to confidentiality, I think that some of the information that you might want is certainly available, and some of it is confidential because in a lot of respects, we're talking about personnel decisions, and these investigations should be conducted in confidentiality so that we're not abridging any individual's rights.
Yeah, no, I agree with all the stuff in concept. And Roy Gunther had a right to confidentiality, but he was all over the newspaper when he had a violation. I'm sure there are a lot of people who get building violations in the town of Hempstead, but they don't make it to the front page of Newsday.com. You know, the thing is, it's just there's 2 standards here, and the town attorney is the last person I'd want conducting an investigation. He lied to me on many occasions, and he should not be entitled to.
Mr. Ra is not conducting this investigation.
I understand that.
He has cooperated and has supported hiring outside investigators to conduct the investigation in his office. And I would ask you to please keep your comments polite.
I try to, but when we get lied to so many times, it's really hard to do that. When I ask questions and I get blatant lies, it's really hard to be polite when you get that kind of response. I ask that the town attorney's office does not handle any of the records, that any FOIA requests go through your office, because once again, I brought these issues up, and I'm trying to be as polite as possible, but we got windows and restaurants law. That's a bogus law that we spent tens of thousands of dollars concocting that scheme. And that's an example of how the town uses its power, the confidentiality, hiding records from the public in order to get a political objective, which is wrong. We tabled the mass mailing thing, which was more descriptive than the short-term rental ban, yet we're not rehearing it, and he lied last time when he said it was noticed properly. These are examples. These are real-life examples as to why the town attorney's office, headed by Joe Ra, should not be handling or involved in any way this investigation.
They will not be involved in this investigation. That's
But
why
even
we're
handling the
retaining
records, the
outside
results,
investigators.
but even talking to the investigators, because once again, the investigator doesn't work in a vacuum. They work in consultation with the people who employ them. And if Joe Ra is consulting with the investigators or anyone from his office, it's very suspicious because
That is why we're having outside investigators, Mr.
But who do they
Mr.
report to?
Procacci.
Who do they report to? You or him?
They're going to be reporting to somebody independent outside of the town attorney's office.
Who's that person?
They're going to be reporting to me and to the town board.
Town board.
Mhm.
Okay, we're going to politicize this then. Okay, thank you very much.
It's not politicized, Mr. Procacci. It's not politicized.
Well, when I ask for records, let's see how it works out.
And the FOILs go through the clerk's office.
Yes, and let's see how that works out because I could, like I've gone through with you on many occasions. I've showed you the actual data with stuff where Joe Ra actually lied about things. And it's very clear there is no need for windows in restaurants as a law. It was bogus. It was targeted thing. If this investigative service is going to target a particular individual, I don't know what it's about.
You don't know
I
what it's
have
about,
no idea.
and at
But
this
the
time, we're
thing
not
is,
commenting on it.
of course, I'm not asking you.
Because we have to see if the allegations are well-founded.
No, I'm not asking you for that, but I'm just giving you examples of malfeasance in the past that is absolutely proven. It's not just beyond a reasonable
I
doubt.
understand.
It's irrefutable proof. Yet everybody goes along with it here. Everybody goes along with it. There is not when I report malfeasance in the town board.
Your time is up. We have to stop. And you're
I
talking about
understand.
things that aren't even on the administrative
No, it
calendar.
has to do with this guy you're hiring and whether the conduct of it. And I'm giving examples of
Okay.
it depends on who he reports to as
I
how
understand.
well the investigation
I
gets
understand.
conducted. So it is related to it. It's not out of left
Okay.
field.
Thank you, Felix. Next, we have Art Gibson.
Good morning, Supervisor Gillen, members of the town board.
Good morning.
It's still officially morning, 2 minutes. After speaking with you at the Vision Long Island event, I want to thank you for your speedy and correct response to the problem of master plumbers' licenses being lent out for a fee within the town of Hempstead. It's a big problem. It's been going on for a long time. It's a disservice to the legitimate contractor, master plumber, and also to the residents of the town of Hempstead. There's one individual I could speak of that bragged to me he has over 250 plumber's licenses in the state of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Florida, and Arizona. Has no employees other than himself. And this is all this gentleman does for a living. And obviously it's a cash business for the obvious reasons. So this could put a big dent in that and also help the legitimate contractors here on Long Island. When the biggest town in the country moves forward with something like this, it'll send a message to all the other towns, and this will reverberate all along Long Island. It'll also thwart a problem that I've witnessed in the past where contractors come, developers come in, and then they bring out-of-state contractors. Even when they receive IDA monies and things like that, they still have the gall to go out and bring in contractors from Connecticut or New Jersey to perform the plumbing, the sprinkler, the heating on these projects. This will create local jobs for local people, and that's what we all really should be behind. And I want to thank you for moving so quickly on this and let you know that if there's anything Plumbers Local Union can do to assist in this matter, we're at your disposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie Lamp.
Good afternoon. Valerie Lamp Baldwin, and so I have some questions pertaining to item number 18. We have an $800,000 plus HR department. Why are we contracting and outsourcing HR professionals?
Ms. Lamb, if I could
yes.
I can answer your question. This is only to pay this company for services that were rendered last year. It's not a going forward contract.
I understand that. I remember when it was on the agenda in January, so I'm trying to understand why we needed that service in the first place.
Mr. Robb, can you answer that? I was not here.
This company, Empower Me, was utilized by Human Resources to file for 211 waivers. 211 waivers to allow retired police personnel to get a waiver so they can make more than $30,000 a year after they retire.
No, I know, and it's a fairly common waiver for those types of employees. But what I'm trying to understand is, first of all, how did we go about contracting? Was this contract RFP'd?
No, I don't believe so. It's personal services.
And so the two people who were named in this contract to benefit from the coaching and the resume writing and the other services, Costalis and what was the other guy's name? Tuscanini, something like that. Why those two? How do they?
They were the two people that the town had identified as individuals that we wanted to hire who were in need of the 211
Weren't
waiver.
they already employed by the town, though?
But you need the waiver every year or 2 years, is it? Every 2 years, right? Every 2 years you need the waiver.
So it's my understanding. So what I'm trying to understand.
They're not easy to get is what the answer is. And so this firm specializes in that.
Okay, so the woman, Joan Enright, another name that was, the last name was just brought up, was she ever employed by the town of Hempstead?
Yes.
Okay, so there was no RFP for this contract, but we gave it to someone who used to work for the town of Hempstead?
Yes.
At $150 an hour. So if I'm a town employee and I feel like I'm being passed over or discriminated against, and I see other employees where the taxpayers get to pay $150 an hour to coach and prime two specific employees so that they can get this additional benefit, don't you think that these employees that feel passed over are going to look at this and say, hey, why not me? How come I don't get special coaching at $150 an hour?
I think what Empower Me does is they assist in the preparation of the application and in answering questions and filing the documents with the state to receive the waivers.
According to an HR professional who I was just consulting with, it's actually not the employees who apply, but actually the hiring firm or township in this case.
Right.
They're the ones who apply.
Correct.
So
we apply for the waivers on their behalf.
Okay, and so I want to let you know, this is just the truth, okay? I did a little homework and research. I spoke to a couple of different employment attorneys who specialize in, their focus is employment law, where they are bringing suits against municipalities on behalf of the workers. They're very interested in this. In fact, they literally said, tell Mr. Procacci, we want to see this tape and how the board and town attorney are going to be answering these questions, because it seems, this is how it appears, correct me if I'm wrong, these two people, I have nothing against them, I've never ever met them, Mr. Costalis and Mr. Toscani, they were carved out and they were able to benefit to the tune of $150 coaching, interview coaching, resume writing, cover letter writing, so that they could access this wonderful waiver that allows you to, receive pension benefits and salary. It's known in the HR world as double dipping. Is that correct? Hello? Hi. Hi.
I believe that this, I wasn't here, Ms. Lamp, but I believe that this was to get a 211 waiver for these individuals last year. As I said, this is retroactive to.
It's on today's agenda.
Right. It's
I
just
want to know that answer. I want to understand the answer.
Without commenting on your premise of exactly what happened here, the town of Hempstead applied for 211 waivers for these two people. And that's the short answer, and that's all I'm going to say on the subject.
Well, that's incomplete. But look, this is what I'm going to say, okay? this, if you guys vote this through, and I understand, Supervisor Gillen, that you have inherited a litany of past due bills which are in arrears. Thank you very much, former Supervisor Santino, for that. But I want to just, look, most of you guys, you're attorneys, and I want you to really think about this, because this, in my humble opinion, and the opinions of the HR professionals and the employment attorneys who I have been speaking with on this issue, as well as other people who have worked for many townships, this looks like favoritism, patronage, and cronyism. And if you put this through, you're laying precedents and you're ringing the dinner bell for the attorneys who will file suit after suit on behalf of disgruntled workers who feel that they've been passed over.
This is just to pay somebody for services that were already rendered.
It's not about not paying the bill. It's about how this was favoring a couple of employees, and also, how did that person get the job? Is it because they were related to somebody? Is it because they used to work for the town and they like her? I mean, no offense to her either. I don't know. She might be great and amazing at what she does. There's other SPHR designated professionals out there who can do the same thing. Did we just hand out another contract because we like somebody?
I can't answer that question. I wasn't here.
I understand, but
Going
what you
forward,
can
we
do...
will be RFPing almost all contracts that go out in employment.
Going forward, I know, but what you can do is you can table this the way it was tabled in January. Why was it tabled in January, Mr. Ra? Why was this tabled?
I believe it was prospective. It was for services going forward, and we
It was not. It was services dated back in August. So why was this tabled?
The language in the resolution was misleading. The supervisor is correct. The language in the resolution in January was misleading.
Which language was misleading? Because I looked it up and it seems
The
to be
language
identical.
as to whether or not it applied to the calendar year 2017 or it was for 2018.
I have copies of that. I don't find any differences in the language.
Okay,
Commissioner Salmon,
that's
would you
why
mind
it was
commenting on what happened?
Good morning, members of the board. With regard to 211 waivers, this is a standard practice in all law enforcement agencies throughout the state of New York. Their investigators are retired law enforcement agents, and they therefore have the proper training to be engaged as investigators. This is a standard practice going for 211 waivers for retired law enforcement personnel as investigators. The DAs use them, State Attorney General uses them. The town attorney is correct. There was some confusion on the resolution when it was first presented. This is for the efforts of my former deputy, Joan Enright, who is very familiar with the 211 process over the years. She was my deputy for 15 or 20 years. These are the efforts that she put out in 2017 to get 211 waivers for these two investigators. We did get them for 2017.
I know what the 211 was, but I know I'm out of time.
Any other questions?
Can I ask him questions afterwards, like in a sidebar or something? Because the truth is, that was not my question. I'm aware now of what the 211 waiver is, and that was not what I was asking.
I'm sure Mr. Salmon would be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Diane Madden?
Diane Madden, East Meadow. Items 16 and 17. Could someone explain to me in further detail?
This is at the last board meeting. Ms. Jairus, I believe, brought up bills that were never paid from last year. So this is taking care of paying the bills that were not paid last year. It's from last year's budget. So we're going to pay the people that should have been paid last year.
Could you please tell me how far back these invoices date?
Yes, Mr. Conroy, thank you.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Supervisor, yes. Last town board, these two off-site veterinarian services, Central Veterinarian and Porter Veterinarian, the town board passed a resolution to encumber for the calendar year 18 specific amounts for their services. And at that point, what was raised is that there were some outstanding bills in 17 that had not been paid. My office then researched that, had a meeting with members of the animal shelter, particularly those members who basically did administrative work. They were under the understanding that they would hold back the invoices and pay them in 18. So there was a misunderstanding on their part. We straightened it out, and what these two resolutions do is they amend the prior resolution so as to increase the not-to-exceed payment, so as particularly to pay these bills, and these bills will be charged and accounted for in 2017, appropriately so. With regard to how far back they go, I believe they go back as far as August of 17. I'm also told that from members of the animal shelter that Dr. Singh did reach out to each one of these entities, and he was assured, or he assured them, that they would be paid and that there was a process to pay them, and that process would take some time. They assured him that in no way would services be interrupted, and I'm also told services were not interrupted.
So are you suggesting that Ms. Giris was lying to the board when she said that a dog died on a transport when the dog was denied service at one of these vets because the bills were not paid?
I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm telling you is what was told to me by those in the animal shelter who championed this cause. I was told in no uncertain terms was services. They were not interrupted. And as far as a dog passing, they had no knowledge of that whatsoever.
Who told you that?
Members of the animal shelter, particularly the accounting representative, I believe her name is Caprice, and the director, who you know is Mike Pistori.
Okay, so Caprice told you there was no interruption of any medical service.
Both members told me that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Rich Shuren.
Richard Shuren, 167 Jefferson Avenue, Island Park, New York. I would just like to thank you, Councilwoman Erin King Sweeney, for resolution number 19, the agreement between the town of Hempstead and Long Beach School District with regard to the use of the Lido golf course. I think I mentioned to Alex, your aide, that something needed to be done to continue the tradition, and you came through, and I thank you for that. And I asked the other members of the board to please approve that resolution to continue the relationship between the town and the golf teams at the Long Beach High School, my son being a member. I appreciate that.
What's his handicap?
7. Not bad, right? It's about 10 better than mine.
About 15 better than mine.
He's good, and I'm happy that they can continue with the team, because I think there was
He plays for Long Beach?
Yeah, sophomore.
My dad played for Long Beach, not golf, but baseball back in the day. So, big fan of Long Beach.
Yeah, it has a great sports tradition, and the relationship between the golf team and the and the town and the golf course is very long and continues. So I would encourage you to, if you can, speak to who's ever managing it to continue the. Now we have a formal. If you have a formal relationship, to also continue the personal relationship, so that they can maintain that good relationship. But thank you. And with respect, I just have a question with respect to item number 31. It's an amendment of a prior resolution, I believe, and I looked in the resolutions, and there's no description as to what it's about. I was just wondering, is it possible to just get a short, like what's being amended there?
Mr. Salmon will speak to that.
As the board's aware, this is a standard resolution on each town board calendar, and basically just covers the personnel adjustments. It modifies the department budgets from the original departure date of January 1st.
Thank you.
You never played? Didn't get into it.
Rory Gordon.
Well, there's a fight when he's on you. I see you on TV on there.
Good afternoon, Board. Rory Gordon, Hop Hog, New York. I was wondering if someone could walk me through the process of a Chapter 90. Number 9.
Yes, Commissioner, you can maybe come up. My understanding, and Mr. Rock, correct me if I'm wrong, is certainly when certain times when we have dwellings that are unsafe, our Department of Buildings will come in and they'll perform services to make those buildings safe, and then we put them on the assessment to recoup our costs. Is that correct, Mr. Commissioner?
Okay, could we get a little more detail than that? For example, last week there was a house on Bittersweet Lane. What was the outcome of that last week? I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, members of Town Board. That resolution was to demolish a one and a half story wood frame dwelling with attached garage. We received complaints about this property for years, and we had our engineering firm along with our code enforcement officers go out, do a structural analysis, and determine that this house needed to come down.
Okay, was it boarded up prior to that?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so it was boarded up prior to doing, having an engineering firm come out?
Correct. When we boarded it up, and I don't have the specifics how long prior to that, but when we bought it was boarded up for at least a couple of years, and over that time period, the structure deteriorated to the point where it needed to come down.
Okay, so that's GAPC's responsibility to board up the houses?
That is the company that is on the town's, yes.
Because I no longer see GAPC in today's situation, or those are just the engineering companies. Is it still GAPC or is it something else?
No, it is still GAPC. What today's resolution number 9 is for the engineering company, Cash and Associates.
Okay, how do you determine which engineering company you use?
We put out an RFP, I believe it was about 2 years ago, and we selected this engineering company.
You only use one?
We only have one, correct.
Okay, what is environmental management?
Environmental management is the asbestos. We have to determine if there's asbestos before we knock down the house. So they'll come out and they'll do an asbestos report. If there is asbestos, it has to be removed legally.
Okay, so every house that you knock down, you have an engineering report done and an asbestos report done?
That is correct.
Big money maker for those two companies. That's very interesting. Okay, and ultimately, who decides who does the demolition on the house?
Again, the town put out a contract, and I believe it was about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was one company that won it. It was out by bid.
It goes out by bid.
Correct. The project was bid.
What are we talking about?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is each individual project bid?
No, we put out a bid a couple of years ago for an asbestos company, a demo company, a board-up company. That was all publicly bid, and the low bidders were accepted, and it's a 5-year contract. So all these people keep that price for 5 years, and they do it whenever we need a project complete.
I'm sorry, Mr. Schwartz. Does he not know the answers that you have to coach him?
No, he's not coaching me.
I'm just checking. Okay. My other question is, when the demolition is done, how do you decide on who does the demolition?
Again, it is by the contractor that was pre-approved by the town board after a bid several years ago. Right. Sometimes what we'll do is, if a project comes in where the asbestos is too high, then we sometimes will go out to bid on one specific location. But for the most part, for our emergency contractors and all of our bids, it is done by L&G Ruggiero, who is a bid.
Well, that's not true, because I found 2 other contractors that do the work. Now, here's what I don't understand. You're saying it's going out by bid. Is that correct?
It was put out to bid, correct.
All the houses that got knocked down go out to bid.
That's not what I said. What I said is the companies that we have on contract was put out to bid. And then either those contractors will do it, or if for some reason we put one out specifically that they don't do it, then we'll put out another bid for one specific location. If we feel that the price is too high, we'll put it out again.
But I'm talking about strictly demolition. I'm not talking about asbestos. I'm not talking about anything but demolition.
What about it?
How do you determine who gets the demolition jobs?
Again, depending on the price. If the price comes in too high, then we'll put it out to bid. And that will depend on the amount of material that's inside of the home, because that all has to be carted away.
And how do we get the numbers on these things? You know,
All put on town board resolutions.
no, all we get is the final number on town board resolutions. How do we know how much it costs to cart it away? Isn't that a separate bill that goes to, you know, the vendor brings it in? I don't know. How does that work? I'm trying to get an education on how it works, and I'm not quite following. I get the asbestos. I get that part. I get the boarding up. I get that part. I'm not quite sure how you decide on who knocks down a house and how it's determined to be an emergency situation to knock the house down. Can you explain that to me?
Again, the way it is determined is the code enforcement officers will be looking into this house. When they feel that it is structurally unsafe, then what we'll do is we'll go out with our engineering firm, and then they will provide us with a report, either stating yes, they agree with us, or no. And every time they've always agreed with us because the houses are in that bad of shape.
Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm just not clear. When it is a contract for securing a demolition, shouldn't they all go out for contract? Or you're saying there's a contract already in place?
If I could weigh in on this, Commissioner, these are a lot of contracts, a lot of houses that we demolish, correct?
Yeah.
No, that is not correct. We don't.
Well, I mean that we cite and they either correct it or then we demolish it.
We do a lot of houses that we bought up, yes.
Right.
And every one that we demo comes before the town board.
Right.
So when it comes before the town board, and you are very annoying. Okay, when you come before the town board.
Excuse me a second. They're trying to help you, okay? The commissioner can't know every little thing that goes on in a big department like that. So will you have some patience and be courteous to them? They're trying to help you. They're trying to give you answers.
Yeah, you're right. He can't know everything because he doesn't fit the qualifications.
Okay. That's an issue you brought up here before, but right now we're trying to answer your questions.
Okay, well, I want to see how much he knows, so I know that 850,000 people are being taken care of. Don't you think that's fair? Isn't that part of your job?
I am very satisfied with the answers that I get from the building department, and I call them frequently with a lot of constituent complaints, and the answers that I get, I'm very happy with. And on the rare occasion where I don't think that they're doing a good job, I am very happy to tell them, but that's a rare occasion.
Do you know who Michael Uttenweiser is?
Do I know who?
Michael Uttenweiser. You've been around a long time.
No, I don't.
Why is the clock ticking when he talks? Michael Uttenweiser was a 19-year-old boy who was walking down a street in Belmore, and the town of Hempstead did not do their job, and a building fell down and killed him. Why? Because the inspectors didn't do their job. There's a lot going on in this building department that I just don't understand. I do a lot of foiling. Everybody knows I spend a lot of time there. God knows they know me on a first-name basis. If I don't uncover what's going on, you guys aren't. You guys are busy. You all got to do what you got to do. But there's a lot of things that one day someone else is going to die, and it's going to make you look very bad. Okay? That's number one.
In my experience, whether it be myself or any member of this board, if anybody, any constituent, any resident, any taxpayer ever brought to our attention anything that had anything to do with public safety or public health, we were on whatever department was responsible. So if it comes to our attention, it could be Dorothy Gooseby, it could be Erin King Sweeney, it could be Anthony D'Esposito, Dennis Dunn, it could be the supervisor herself, Eddie Ambrosino. Any of us, whenever there was a public safety or public health issue and it was brought to our attention, we made sure that it got the attention of the various departments. So that's my experience. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is they're trying to help you. So let them confer if they have to give you the right answer.
So are you saying it's a complaint-driven department?
No, can I tell you something? I believe that all our departments have to be proactive, but it is the largest township in America. If it were called a city instead of a town, it would be the second largest city in the state, second only to New York City. So yes, there's a lot of things going on in the town that we can't know about every day. So we rely on constituents to tell us if there's a problem in their particular community so we can remedy it.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Based on what Commissioner Rodkamp has just told us, the homes that get demolished, they don't go out for bid. Is that correct?
The homes don't, there's a bid with a contracting company to demolish the homes. That is correct.
Is that correct? That's not what you said.
What I said was a bid was put out several years ago for a demolition company. They are already on contract. So we use them for emergencies. Anytime, if we get a call right now for a fire or anything like that we need to knock something down, I don't have time to come back to the town board and ask them to hire a demo company. It has to be done as an emergency, and this was pre-approved.
You're not understanding the difference. There are circumstances where when we do something as a town, there is a bid that goes out or an RFP that goes out for each and every item. What they have is a contract that has been approved by this board that gives the commissioner the right to go out and on an emergency basis, so they don't have to wait 2 weeks to come to town board, to do things like board up or ameliorate any kind of hazard, any kind of safety issue. That is a standard contract. Every municipality in the state has a similar contract to go out on emergency. But that contract was approved, and their fee schedule was approved by this board.
Okay, okay, so Bittersweet Lane, is that considered an emergency?
It's not it's an emergency, yes, okay, but it's not a critical emergency where it's going to collapse any second.
Okay, so are you going to use the person, or are you going to put it out for bid? Or is that an emergency situation?
That one would probably be going out to LNG. What we have to do is we have to go inside, determine how much debris is inside. As the councilman said, he's correct. When we put out the contract, it's specific on cubic feet of house. We know how big a house is. We know how much their fee is. However, when the house is filled to capacity with garbage and debris on top of it, that needs to be carted away. That's additional cost. It's additional materials. If at that time we don't feel that the contractor in place is giving us a correct price, then I will go out and individually bid that project.
Why do I not see that bid in front of this town board?
This contract today is to pay the engineering firm.
Not this contract.
Well, that's what we're talking about, the administrative.
No, I'm trying to determine now the demolition contract that was last week, because we're talking about all these contracts.
We're talking about what's on the administrative calendar. In terms of your other questions, I'm sure Mr. Rockcamp would be happy to answer them to you in a sidebar.
Wouldn't you like to know the demolitions, how they work?
We're working on the administrative calendar right now. So to the extent you have questions about items on this calendar, that's what we're talking about in public session here.
Can I read the code to you? It says, except in an emergency as provided in 90-15 of this chapter, any contract for the servicing and making safe of the demolition and removal of a building in excess of $5,000 shall be awarded through competitive bidding. Where have I seen these resolutions that this competitive bidding exists? It doesn't. Okay, that's a problem. Do you not agree with me, at least on that? No. Okay, why?
Because a competitive bid was done. A competitive bid went out, was sent out by purchasing, we got all the demo companies to bid on it, and we accepted the lowest bidder.
Okay. I'll bring the rest of my documents next time. Thank you.
Next, we have Lucille Defina.
Hi, good afternoon. I'd like to talk about items 16 and 17.
Can you just state your name and address for the record?
Lucille Defina Merrick. So what I'd like to understand is the back money that was not paid. Are we saying Pistori and Caprice decided not to pay them, to withhold payments for emergency vet care? Am I understanding that correct?
Mr. Conroy, can you answer that? This predates my tenure on the board.
Could you please repeat your question?
On what basis did they hold payment for almost a year on the two current contracted vets, emergency vets?
Well, first of all, it's not almost a year. It was, as I stated earlier, the first invoice that was not paid timely was in August. They discussed it with Dr. Singh, who, as I mentioned earlier, reached out to both of those entities and said, look, there's a process to get you paid. In government, there's a town board resolution whereby there was a citing of a not-to-exceed per vendor. We have reached that scope.
All right.
Let me finish, because I think I can clear you up.
Going in a totally wrong direction already.
Right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
When you said Dr. Singh reached out to them, first of all, he's our contracted vet, correct? He's not even our in-house vet. When did he reach out to them? Now, recently, or in August? In August, did he say we are not paying you?
Approximately around the time that they became aware that the resolution where not to exceed amount was in fact memorialized and cited, they said, listen, we can't get these paid timely. At that point, he reached out. That would have been, this is subject to check, somewhere in the neighborhood of August of 2017.
Okay, so they knew for the rest of the year, the balance of the year, that they would work without payment because they trusted the town and Dr. Singh that they would be paid after the process was done.
Correct.
Okay.
To quote Mr. Pastori, who was quoting Dr. Singh, the response Dr. Singh got when he made mention to the fact that these two entities would not be paid timely, they had mentioned, that's fine. That's the quote that I got. And as it all turns out, they did not get paid in a timely fashion. They're about to be paid after this town board doesn't, in fact, approve that resolution, that no animal was turned away. There was no interruption of service, and there was no death of a dog, from what I'm told.
Okay, well, I'm not going to even touch on that because, as always with the animal shelter issue, there's two different stories all the time. So it's the people who are telling the truth, the people who are lying against the people who are I don't know. I don't even want to discuss that. What I'm trying to figure out is, as far as contracted veterinarians, I think it's kind of strange that a contracted veterinarian would also discuss this with other contracted veterinarians. I mean, why was it him? I think that's sort of odd. The other thing is, what about other contracted vets? This shelter, year after year, had an abundance of contracted vets, such as Island Trees, Baldwin Animal Hospital, Hilton, the numerous vets. What happened to them? Did we stop renewing their contracts?
I can only speak to the particulars regarding 16 and 17 as it pertains to these off-site veterinarian hospitals. That you'll have to take up with members at the animal shelter.
Am I able to get an answer on this? I mean, do we no longer, have we stopped? I know this is before you, but you should know that we've had an abundance of contracted veterinarians for the animal shelter. Is that no longer the case? Do we now only have 2 contracted vets and solely for the purpose of emergency vet?
We are putting out a bunch of RFPs for the animal shelter. I went through my whole laundry list of what we're doing. Things are going out.
I know, but I'm asking a very
right now we're
definite
talking about the items on the administrative calendar. We're trying to move through the administrative calendar, and then we'll get to public comment. So I think do you have any more questions about the items that are specifically on the administrative calendar?
Well, the other thing is we're issuing a check to this Porter veterinarian, which everybody was very concerned and upset about. Valerie spoke to someone in your administration. He assured her that Porter does not exist and that it was a typo. Is that correct? Because here it is, it appears again in this paperwork, it appears in your resolution, and it clearly looks like you're issuing a check to a Porter veterinarian, and it does not exist. So can I get clarification on that?
Well, if you read the resolution, it
says DBA, doing business as. But what is that about? Because if you speak to New York specialty veterinarian, they said they never heard of Porter Animal Hospital. And if you research it,
I have a W-9 in my office, which is a disclosure, and they've memorialized exactly what's in this resolution.
So,
I'm sorry, you can't call out from the gallery. You can't come up right now, Ms. Lamp. Let Mr. Conroy finish, and then you can speak afterward.
If there's an error here, we will do our diligence to make sure that the correct entity is in fact paid.
why would Mitch tell Valerie that it was a typo?
I don't know. I can't speak to that.
And we were relieved about that for the last, since the last town board meeting.
What we're talking about, if I understand you correctly, is the specific name of the entity that we're about to disperse monies to. Is that where we're at?
Yes.
Well, yeah, because I mean,
I'll go back to my office and I will make sure that we correct it and that the amounts that will be dispersed are dispersed correctly to the entity that exists.
well, I think that's important. I've looked at other resolutions.
Because if we do disperse it to an entity that does not exist, then there is a problem. There'll be a major problem.
Or what about if it's an entity that was just put into play, or a division that was just put together, a few months ago? Well, who knows? I mean, what if?
I will go back and ensure, that the entity exists and the correct name is what is in our system, so as to appropriately cut the check to that entity that in fact rendered the service.
So, just so I'm clear, do we know whether this is the correct entity in item 17?
Well, now that it has been brought up, it is subject to check. Do I know that for sure? Have I seen the actual W-9, if you will? I have not. I'm told there is one on file, but now that I'm apprised of it, I will check it out and ensure.
You have information that it's not the correct entity?
I'm, again, a middle person. That's why she wanted to come up to speak, because we found out that New York specialty vet had no knowledge, never heard of the name. There is some Porter animal or veterinarian on the internet that was something that opened up and was closed down, some kind of LLC. There was plenty of reason to doubt or worry about. There were even bad negative reviews.
Oh, forget it.
I know that doesn't. It just seemed to be an entity that opened and closed, and that's.
Can we get an opinion from you?
I believe. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I believe that what you were told was that we were paying the entity that was identified on the contract and on the invoices. But if there's some doubt about whether or not we're paying the correct legal entity, I mean, we can do a name search on, just New York State Department of Corporations to make sure that this is in fact a licensed. What the correct name is to be the payee. Is that right, Mr. Bra?
The disclosure that we have indicates that Porter owns that. Now, who did you talk to at?
See, she knows more about it. I'm
Who
at
did
a
you talk to at
disadvantage.
New York Veterinary?
I.
Mind if Valerie comes up?
Come up.
Thank you, because this is not.
You know more about it than I do. Okay, very simple. The Department of State does have Porter Veterinary Clinic online. However, I spoke to a forensic CPA who was a partner of a very large firm, global, and that company is defunct. I called the listed phone number for it. It is a completely different vet clinic located in Manhattan. I brought this to your attention, Supervisor Gillen and Mr. Plotnick, and
I also called the veterinary clinic, that's the DBA on the resolution, and they do not know anything about Porter, so a check should not be cut to them.
Who did you speak to?
The manager in the Farmingdale location, which is the actual contract.
The manager knows who's the underlying
The
owner.
parent company of the DBA is Pet Vet. It is not Porter. So to cut a check to Porter, and I don't know who owns it, my Googling came up with a name. I can't find the guy anywhere, okay? I'm just letting you know. The check should be cut to the DBA. Porter, I don't know how Porter made it back onto this resolution.
Because I believe that's the entity that's been sending us invoices. Is that correct, Mr.?
That's correct, Supervisor.
No, according to Mr. Plotnick, who had a copy of the, where is he? Mr. Plotnick, you had a copy of the actual invoice in your hand when we spoke, right?
Pitnick, my last name. Bob.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Sorry.
I don't have the invoice with me. When we spoke on the phone a week and a half ago, I had all the information with me.
And the invoice was coming from the DBA located in Farmingdale, correct? Not Porter?
I think we can all agree that we want to pay the people who rendered services.
Right.
I don't know who rendered services, but we can find out who rendered the services last year and make sure that we pay the right people. Can we take care of that, please?
Well, Supervisor, Councilman Ambrosino Googled it while we were having the discussion, and they are, in fact, in operation. They
No,
are
they're not.
doing business.
No, they're not.
That's what the internet says.
The Department of State does not have the most up-to-date information. I have a DBA which was registered prior to incorporating. The Department of State shows the incorporation date as of 2 years ago. However, since then, they are completely defunct, and they do not have any website, any location, any phone number. I'm just saying this, so here's the bottom line. Porter does not exist if you want to do a little more digging, Mr. Ambrosino, but more importantly, I think it's really interesting that that company found its way onto the resolution twice, and it is not the parent company of the DBA. So if you're going to cut a check, all we want to do, we want them to get paid. We want the emergency services to be available. Just pay the right institution.
All right. So we have some tax documents from this company. We'll make sure we're paying the right people. We want to pay the right people.
So do we.
But,
That's what this is all about.
and it says Porter Veterinary Services, PC.
When is it dated? They were established in November 2015, and they are out of business.
We'll look into it. I have a taxpayer document right here.
What's it dated? They're not the parent company. If you call the DBA in Farmingdale, they will tell you their parent company is Pet Vet, and they've never heard of Porter.
Well, we're going to look into it,
Okay.
and we'll make sure that we
Thank
pay
you.
people that do exist and that rendered services for us. Next, I have Mary Ellen Cray.
Mary Ellen Cray, 436 Locust Avenue, Uniondale. On item number 9, 774 Macon Place. Has that been boarded up already? And then it's being charged for the services, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Could you ask your question again, please?
774 Macon Place. Has that been boarded up and we're paying for the services? Is that correct?
The commissioner will answer your question.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, Council members. Yes, that is correct.
So my concern is this. Unless I've conflated the address, I believe this is the one that's owned by, now owned by Uniondale Community Land Trust.
I'd have to look at the record of who owns that piece of property.
I believe Mr. Lipinski, Raish was Supervisor of Inspection Services. Mr. Lipinski has talked with Ms. Cray about this. I believe they picked up the property.
We did have some services done to the property. I don't know if it was before they took title to the property, but I know she has talked to Mr. Lipinski, and we can talk to her further about the numbers that are being placed in back assessment at this time.
So do you know who is being assessed for that $1,300, please?
Well, it goes on to the property taxes, so whoever is the current titled owner or taxpayer would be the person paying.
I see. So even if it was done prior to, we're going to get stuck with it.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's why title companies do check for our violations. I don't know if it didn't come up on the title report. It should have, unless the date it's worked out in such a way that, you know, you bought it before it was opened as an investigation. I doubt it, but, you know, it does take a while to record a deed, and sometimes we don't send the notification. Did the land trust actually get our notification or no?
That I'm not aware of.
Okay, we can look into it, Ms. Cray, though.
I appreciate that. Thank you. On item number 28, the certified in pesticide application, I'm hoping that in the use of pesticides, that the least environmental impact type of pesticides would be used so that they do not affect the pollinators adversely. Is there a kind of a resolution or a work process that requires the least environmental impact and not to use those, I'm not sure, neonics or something like that that are so bad for the pollinators?
I can't tell you exactly what pesticides we use. I'm not sure, but there is an effort to be environmentally conscious in the town of Hempstead, so I can look into that for you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call the... Oh, I didn't have a slip for you. Are you for the administrative calendar or public comment? Okay.
Good afternoon to the town board. My name is Jim Alkis, 238 Broadway, Amityville. First, I'd like to say the civility of the board. It's pretty nice to see. The circus seems to be over. It's nice to see adults in a room. That's the first thing I'd like to say. I'd like to speak in reference to number 30, the private investigators. I just want to let you know that I support that 100%. I think it's a great idea. And if you do get an unbiased investigator, I suggest you have them contact me as soon as possible, because I actually have some extremely great raw data, because I knew that there was an abuse of power being committed here with serious cover-up. And fortunate for me, I have several friends in law enforcement myself, so I was able to catch it, and I have it. I have it real good. I've been contemplating putting it up on YouTube just to get a big laugh about it, because I'm sure that the officials that I had spoken with would really get a shock. But I got it from your legal department straight through your building department to your appointed board. So if I knew I had somebody that I could really trust, that I know wouldn't sweep it under the carpet, I would love to share it with them. And in reference to what Mr. Blakeman said about the building department, I have to respectfully disagree with that statement. I have been attempting to deal with them, and this reminds me of the good old boys club. Somebody does something wrong, and everybody else just covers for them. And sadly, doing what I do for a living, it's been sad to watch. And I know there's really good people up here, and I know that you guys aren't in those particular departments, but it's just sad that when an adult knows another adult is abusing somebody, they don't do something about it. They cover it up. And that's really sad. So I would love to work with the gentleman or woman, whoever you guys get, and you should have him give me a call. But you guys have a nice day. I hope 30 passes.
Thank you. Okay. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll for items? I don't have a slip for you, Ms. Meriday, for the administrative calendar.
I put down specific notes. Look at the administrative calendar till I walked in the room because I had to circle the wagon to try to find a place to park. Sorry, Meta Meriday Baldwin. And I was told by the nice security guard that the pylon was in front of a spot in the visitor section because it was someone coming to the town board. I thought I was somebody coming to the town board. So anyway, I had to circle until a nice gentleman kind of directed me to the spot. So I generally like to be prepared. But some of the issues that I wanted to bring up, I won't necessarily rehash what's already been said, except to say it said that it seems that for the taxes that we pay in this township, that it seems that we pay for lack of oversight, misinformation, and misrepresentation on forms. So that's always interesting to hear about. Item 14, as it was said earlier, that it seems for some of the members on the board that all I do is, quote unquote, complain and not offer anything positive. Here is a suggestion, an idea, a free thought. For this event, why not consider passing out a flyer, since this will be a part of a salute, a veterans event, that would maybe highlight some of the actual achievements or things that have been done in the township for veterans, and to update the veteran community about some of the things that they are entitled to.
I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that's on the record, that I don't complain, I advocate, and then I try to address it with solutions. Number 17, I'm just hoping, again, that that issue gets taken care of, and that, sad to say, I'm pretty sure that this is not an isolated incident with this documentation. So if you're talking about investigating and auditing, we really need to do a better job on all the contracts, because taxpayers are really getting up in arms with what's happening.
Well, Ms. Meriday, right now, the great weight of the evidence is that it is proper from everything we've looked at. If for some reason it's not proper, then someone was perpetuating a fraud on the town. And believe me, if someone perpetuates a fraud on the town, I think I can speak for all my colleagues, we will follow that wherever it goes, and they will pay the consequence.
Okay, and does that include if it goes to like a chain of a family member, close friend, relative, or neighbor?
Wherever it goes, I will be the advocate, and I'm sure my colleagues will as well, but I will be the advocate if there was any subterfuge or any fraud perpetrated on the town, on the taxpayers. But right now, the great weight of the evidence is that it was proper.
Okay. I just find it, again, interesting when we're told as residents to bring these issues to the table. And I'm hoping, and I am standing on your word, because I have known you for a number of years. I'm standing on your word that you will see this through, even though for us, past history kind of is prologue. Okay, item 22 and 23. I do want to commend Councilwoman Gooseby as well as the supervisor staff, and I know that I had had some discussions with some people, including members from Councilwoman Erin King Sweeney's office, with regard to the celebration of the African American History Month. So I do want to compliment the town on that occasion. With regard to, I'm sorry, you're shaking your head, Council, do you not want to take you don't want to acknowledge that I am thanking you and giving you appreciation? I'm just trying to be clear. You didn't do the program? Okay. Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate
I always
your
thought,
thank
you just take, accept a compliment. I just said everybody on the town board.
We tried to be very inclusive with the program, but thank you. I appreciate your.
Okay. And I did find it interesting that there was a focus on veterans, and I just think for whomever, had I gotten some advance notice, and again, Councilman Dunn, I didn't get advance notice. I got notice about the event. And since I am a person of color and proud of that heritage, I do try to participate at events of that nature. I did not get notice that there was going to be such a strong veteran component to that program. So I just think, again, that we really need to incorporate all of the resources and individuals who do stand up for those particular constituencies being involved with that. So thanks go to whomever was involved. On item 31, and I'm probably going to follow up, I guess, back channel with Felix Procacci because he's much more astute with all of that, but it just seems to me that these types of items kind of get tucked in here when we're talking about amending resolutions for various offices and things of that nature. And I'm just hoping that I don't have to do the due diligence and dig up the research to find out that there are more confidential assistants and things of that nature that are being assigned to various positions, because we seem to pay in the township salaries that the taxpayers can't even support to pay for these houses that they're running out of in the middle of the night. And in conclusion, because I definitely want to try to be timely for a change, I just want to say that there are those instances where the information is provided, and I'm so happy that there are other residents here who are as vigilant as we need to be, and for the staff that is paid to work for the township as they need to be, to make sure that our tax dollars are being spent more wisely, particularly with item 18, because I also had questions about what type of coaching and that type of thing. We need to address that, incorporate the views of our residents. And to the point where I don't provide information and solutions and ideas, that is not true. I have provided information, and whoever contacts me from the board, particularly staff people from Councilwoman King Sweeney's office, I provided them information. I've even provided information to some of your staff members, Supervisor Gillen, and I haven't gotten any response back. So it's kind of hard to come before you and be told, yes, we welcome your ideas and your input and things of that nature, and then we see where our tax dollars are being misspent, and then we volunteer our own time and intellectual property, and we don't get the courtesy of a response or having that included. So I just wanted to put that out there. And thank you all very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please call items 9 through 36? Call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Aye. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino. Aye. Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Supervisor, Councilman Diaz-Pasito and I have a public safety meeting, so we're going to head over to that.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're now moving into public comment. I have Domenica Califano.
Supervisor, if I can, I think there was 3 slips that were specific to me. If there's any way possible, you could call them first, so this way I could listen to my constituents and then head to the meeting.
Sorry, I have a closing to go to myself, so could I just speak while I'm up here? Thanks.
Your slips, I'll
Thank
find
you.
them and do that
Thank you.
first.
Hi, how are you? I just want to say...
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Okay. Domenica Califano, Island Park, New York. I'm just a little taken back about Anthony D'Exposito's positions. I commented on the internet, and of course his little puppets had to go and attack a whole bunch of people. It's a disgrace as a councilman that this is allowed, Laura Gillen, that it is a disgrace that he allows the way he speaks to people up here and what he has said to me up here after me speaking. I am a taxpayer here. I do have rights as a citizen here. The other thing is, he has a secretary, Matt Passione from Island Park, has everything illegal on his piece of property. He has stepped down from Island Park trustee. He has a mother-daughter that hasn't paid any application fees on his house. Anthony knows well aware of it. He has a residential piece of property that turned into commercial landscaping. About 6 people in the area have gotten cancer. He has another illegal apartment that's a single family, and he has 2 families renting from it. He is an employee of the town of Hempstead. With his political connections, he's getting away with it. I have all documentations to show this. This is not fair, as other people that have 2-family homes in the town of Hempstead, the village, that we pay top dollar. We're not doing illegal rentals and getting away with it. It's selective enforcement, it's favoritism. Anthony continues to do this and allows this, and every time I speak out, they attack everyone on the Island Park community page that's ran by one of his buddies. And exactly what was said to me in this meeting was his little buddy doing that, which doesn't pay no taxes on his business for the last 3 years, and DeExposito condones it all. So maybe you should look into it, and maybe I could give you that information to your office, and you could look for more into it. Okay? Thank you.
I'm just looking for the slips that are responsive to Mr. Councilman's request. Rich Shuren.
Richard Shuren, 167 Jefferson Avenue, Island Park, New York. I just want to say that all the council members make a great sacrifice to serve on the town board. It takes a lot of time, and it doesn't pay what I believe is a salary that will support a family in the town of Hempstead. They have private employment outside of the town board, which I think is appropriate, and their employers, I am sure, take into account the fact that they're serving on the town board, doing a community service or whatever, and I'm pretty sure that, maybe their compensation is adjusted appropriately or whatever accommodations are made, but basically you have a private employer who is approving or consenting to their employee or their partner, in the case of a law firm, participating in something that takes a great deal of time outside of their employment. That I think is appropriate, and they're to be commended. These people, Supervisor Gillen, I know is an attorney, works in a law firm. Councilwoman Sweeney, I know your partners or your employers, accept this situation and maybe even make provisions in your salaries or whatever. But I think it's wholly inappropriate and wrong for a council person to have outside employment in government service, especially of the type that you've accepted, Anthony, and that you've announced. The great difference is that in public employment, the citizens don't have a say. Basically, they don't approve. They don't necessarily consent to an employee dedicating less than all of their efforts to their job that they're being paid for. And I understand the particular situation. I agree that $70,000 or $72,000, whatever it is, may not be enough to support a family in the town of Hempstead. And, I would have no problem with you seeking employment through Kroll or whatever, or even, something else, a private employer. But, and especially the Board of Elections positions, which as we all know how the Board of Elections work, they're basically patronage jobs, assigned to the parties. They divide it up, and they're given out to soldiers and friends and families. So it's just not right, and it sets a very bad precedent. And in a way, it's insulting to all of the other public servants who make accommodations in their careers and make great sacrifices. And I know there's lots of people that would run for public office, town board or other positions, if they were financially able to do so, but they don't have jobs, they're not in a place in their career that would allow them to do that, to dedicate the time. So I'm trying to say this in a nice way. It's just wrong. It's ethically wrong. I would suggest to you as the majority leader, Councilman Sweeney, to speak out about it and to let people know that, this is not appropriate. And to you, Councilman D'Esposito, I mean, I don't know why you want to do it. Why you want to participate in that type of enterprise. And that, when I say enterprise, I mean, this type of situation where it has the appearance that you're being given money in order to maintain a standard of living, which I agree is necessary, in order so you can keep your position here. I mean, it's just not right. And the fact that maybe a few other people have done it in the past doesn't make it right either. And particularly, you're talking about a Board of Elections position. You're not talking about, where you're the chief of police or something like that. It's just not right. And I would ask you to reconsider. And I'm sure that there's maybe other private employers that would be interested in hiring you, and to consider that as opposed to continuing this enterprise, which has a very bad appearance. Thank you.
Felix Picacci.
Felix Picacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square, New York. I wanted to talk about an administrative calendar. I ran out of time on that, regard to the plumber's fraud law, which I agree with. But I would have to ask that, first of all, the text of the law was never given. Usually when you call a hearing, the detailed text of the law is usually provided at the calling of the hearing. So from what I can tell, I printed it out here, it doesn't look like text of a law. It looks like it's referring to the changes that are going to be made sometime in the future. And, I think that the people need to know the text. And also the rule, just so you know, because this was a Kate Murray rule, I think it was more of a Felix rule, that at one point in time, you were allowed to speak on the calling of hearings. And there was no clock on calling of hearings. Only on miscellaneous calendar was there a 3-minute time limit. That's the Felix rule that when I started talking on these issues and bringing out these facts, that they got upset and they set a time limit. I was the first one to get belled on administrative calendar or public hearing. So I hold that record. The thing is, this law should be written in a way that it says that, whatever the text is going to say, that, well, it excludes Republican committeemen because there are laws that are violated.
What law are you talking about?
The plumber's law that are being proposed, because the fact of the matter is that laws that are broken in this town, and I mentioned John Rodkamp to you, and Rory brought that up, I think, September of last year, that, yes, maybe he's been doing the job for a long time, but maybe these plumbers have been doing a job for a long time, but just because you drive without a license because you know how to drive, this is ensuring that you have the proper credentials prior to. So you're going to enforce this law, and I support enforcing all laws. That's just the, But when laws are selectively enforced, which a lot of people come up here and talk about, that's wrong. Like what I showed you John Rodkamp's resume. I showed you the town code. It shows they don't match. The board has known about this for months before me. When Rory brought it up to Mr. Blakeman's statement that he meant that when he finds out there's something wrong, he brings it to the attention. But this has been brought to the attention of the board, and so far nobody has mentioned anything to remedy the situation. That are you going to change town law, the code? Was the code that I foiled because that's what came? Is that wrong? Was the resume wrong? I mean, all the facts that have been given show that doesn't meet the qualifications. That doesn't mean he can't do the job. But like I said, if I drive without a license, that doesn't mean I don't know how to drive. It just means I don't have the proper credentials to drive a car. And the cops will give me a ticket anyway, even though I know how to drive. So we're looking rule of law, which is a very important thing. You have 4 lawyers out of 7 on the board. The rule of law, all men are created equal. All people should be treated equal. That's a very important principle. When it's very easy to say, and I looked up the history of how John Rodkamp got the position, they did a nationwide search, 19 people, and they found the person on the 2nd floor. I mean, that's very odd. And he had just happened to be a Republican committee man. It's just very odd that that's the person that gets a job, and that's the person who always gets a job, regardless of what we're talking about here, whether it's him or someone else.
Mr. Procacci, excuse me, Mr. Rock, correct me if I say something wrong, but Commissioner Rothkamp complies with all the requirements of civil service. So you might have a personal problem with him, but to suggest that he's not qualified for the position is just not accurate.
This is his resume. This is the town code.
Okay, which I can't see that you can share it with me, but as far as I've been informed, he is completely qualified according to civil service. So I do not like speaking about people and spreading mistruths about people. It's not fair. He has a family, he is a professional, and it's not fair to do that.
Absolutely not fair. But it's fair to bring out the code, and it's fair to bring out the fact that he doesn't meet that code.
Mr. Rock, correct me if I'm wrong. Is he qualified as per civil service?
That's per Tanner Hempstead Department of Civil Service. He meets the qualifications.
Mr. Procacci, I will just let you know that I did receive the materials you sent me, and without waiving privilege, I will say that it's being investigated to the extent it needs to be investigated.
But the thing is,
Supervisor may also say, excuse me, Mr. Procacci, you know, there's freedom of information. And sometimes what I've understood from the last Association of Towns meetings, there are some things that the public are not allowed to say, you know, when it comes to other people. Other people have rights as well. So that includes our staff and people that work for this town. So I would advise some of them not to make some of the statements that they're making because they can be sued as well.
And that's it. Well, what's interesting about this resume that is they blacked out his address, but meanwhile the town of Hempstead is defending the fact that they gave out Camp Anchor children's addresses, but they blanked out the address on they respected Mr. Rodkamp's privacy, but they didn't respect the privacy of the Camp Anchor children. There seems to be a double standard. Maybe there's some per civil service, but I've talked to your guy, Chris Schmidt, at civil service. When I went in there with my cameras, I wanted to film a meeting. He told me I wasn't allowed to film. He didn't even know state law. So, you know, I've gone through the rigor here. And also, what's also in the law was the fact, I bring up the windows in restaurants law, which, once again, it's a targeted law, and all the evidence I showed Supervisor Gill and all the evidence that it shows that it was targeted. Court documents show they discussed windows in restaurants 2-3 months before the law was passed. And finally, once again, your law, Councilwoman Sweeney, the STR law was improperly noticed. Mr. Robb was lying when he said that. I showed that also to Supervisor Gillen. She agreed that it doesn't mention anything about what that law was about. And there's a double standard because Mr. Robb told Mr. D'Esposito to table a law for an unknown purpose. He didn't even have a definition, and then he made something up. And believe it or not, the mass mailing legislation was better noticed in the sense that if you read it, the notice, you at least understand some concept of what that legislation was about. When you read the notice for this STR legislation, you'll have no clue, and Supervisor Gillen agreed, you would have no clue why you don't rehear it in an effort of fairness and legal, you know, so all men are created equal, all people should be treated equally. Why not rehear it just like we agreed to rehear the mass mailing?
As far as I know, it's been noticed correctly. If you want to provide me with further information, I'm
with
delighted that that law passed, and I represent the residents of Point Lookout and Lido, and is overwhelmingly in favor of that law.
I am talking about the notice, and once again, that was targeted for a small community. Meanwhile, it applies to the entire town.
It's not targeted to it. I represent those communities. They brought these issues to my attention, and I advocated on their behalf, which is what I'm hired to do. It's not targeted at anyone. It was an important issue for those two communities I represent.
And just on that note, the communities that I represent in my district were delighted about it as well.
I'm not arguing that point. I'm arguing the notice was improper.
Well, because you're saying it was targeted, which it wasn't. That's two districts that were very happy with it.
And I go, only 1,500 letters, personal letters were sent out. Why not 255,000 letters so it covered the whole town? That's it.
Okay, you want to speak about? I'm sorry, you want to speak about Councilman Diaz-Pasito? Okay, then please come.
Patty Ambrosia, 239 Sunset Avenue, Island Park. Council, I would like to ask you, do you have any update of New York Rising and our bulkheading?
Any requests that you have for updates, if you want to provide them in writing, and I'll have my office called directly after the meeting.
Okay, so let me now focus over here. So I've been dealing with the town of Hempstead for many, many years on California Place South. We have 82 homes, and numerous times the town has come, they have cleaned out our drains, they have fixed the shut-off valves, blah, blah, blah. 82 homes this weekend could not leave. This actually looks like it was a new paved road. This is all water. This is my property. Why, as a taxpayer, am I getting salt water on my grass, my plants, and my everything? The town needs to fix the storm drains on California Place South. So the drains that are on New York Avenue in Island Park, they were never fixed, but that's down the block. I try to speak about myself, but now their runoff of water is now coming down in front of my house to use my drain, which is filling up my area. So then when we get these funny moons and high tides and whatever it may be, it's coming up through the storm drains. It's a beautiful sky, there's no rain, there's no reason for this, and it is no longer acceptable. These valves need to be fixed. We have one on Brennan, we have one on New York Avenue, and we have one on Vanderbilt Place. Enough is enough. I pay a lot of money in taxes, and so do these 82 homes. We could not get to our homes Saturday evening until after 11:30 p.m. because our streets are flooded. What's going on?
Patty, are you speaking specifically to tidal flex valves? Are you talking about the CRP process?
I'm just talking about the tidal valves that are in our storm drains.
Okay. Commissioner,
come on, you know me well. Good, how are you?
The specific location you're talking about California Avenue?
Yes.
California Place.
So yes, so some of that is covered under the GOZER projects that are all coming to fruition now. That's going to include a road raise in that area. But in addition to that, my department is putting out a contract specifically for check valves.
Don't we have one?
We have requirements contracts that we use for that purpose, but to better alleviate these situations and in a more speediest manner, we're putting out a contract just for that purpose.
Can you tell me, how many times have you done this? Because we've dealt with you for many, many years on this. It's still the same problem.
Well, I've only been the commissioner for a year. In terms of dealing, you're saying you dealt with the check valves?
You're right. You're not. I speak with your supervisor.
Okay.
You're the commissioner.
I'm the commissioner, correct.
Sorry.
But yeah, no,
I'll be
nice to meet you.
You have a card?
But yeah, this contract came out of conversations that we had at various meetings with residents and pressure that we were receiving from Diaz-Pasito's office and Eric King Sweeney's office. And in an attempt to alleviate these situations, we're putting out that contract. So I hope that does the job.
Commish, just correct me if I'm wrong, but some of these projects that are coming to fruition, they're sort of like a Tetris game. Some of them cannot be completed until the other work, which we are waiting for other funding from the state, are completed first. Correct?
Yeah, it's not so much a matter of that. It's that they're coming to a point at different times in the timeline based on when we're receiving the funding. So if that answers.
Well, we're not going to open up roads and put brand new storm drains in when we know that we're raising the road in the coming months.
Right.
Is
yes.
what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So can I just interrupt?
And Just to kind of explain the storm drain contract or the tidal flex contract, it's very similar to what we were discussing before. There's a house that needs to be boarded up. We have someone on contract that will come and board up the house. So this is going to be very similar. When there's an issue with the tidal flex valve, there's an item stuck in it, it's malfunctioning, we see that there's an issue, we will now have someone on contract. Instead of having to actually go out to bid and wait 2 town board meetings, the commissioner and his staff could call someone immediately and have them respond to it.
And this has been done over and over and over.
I don't know if that's the case, but like I said, we're tackling it. I'm tackling it from, I've investigated it deeply, and we're trying to solve the problem the best way we can. I mean, we're dealing with rising tides here. There isn't an end-all solution.
This is not about a rising tide. This is about storm drains that are not working once again, because this is just a high tide. You can see no water is coming over the bulkheading. This is coming right out of these storm drains on Brennan Place.
Yep.
Period.
The check valves should most definitely solve that.
Right, and this is 3 areas in Island Park, which 82 people cannot get to their houses because we have water in our way. This is an actual town of Hempstead problem. New York Rising, Anthony, so am I going to be waiting months, years?
No, not years. There's projects that are in the commissioner's office right now that are being waiting to be approved by his office, and then they will go back to the state and start.
Okay, so I thought that with the New York Rising funds, the county was handling that.
Well, this is actually the governor's office of storm recovery.
Okay, so the town of Hempstead and the county are handling it?
Most of the projects, Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong, we are now the subrecipient of these projects because most of them were our roads. The things that are being handled on the county level, for instance, the valves directly off of Austin Boulevard, and on Lawson Boulevard, we just had a meeting about this on Saturday. We are doing what we can with our tidal flex valves on our streets in order to alleviate the flooding on the county roads, not to wait for the county to make a move.
Okay.
Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Okay. So can you give me a card, please? Okay. So I sit here today, and I will be back for every time my home gets flooded. You know, it's just totally insane. If I need a petition, I'll do whatever I have to do to stop this. It's just not acceptable anymore. My next question is, the town has come in, the bulkheading. Many of us don't have bulkheading. I have bulkheading. Many of the homeowners do not have bulkheading. A lot of people don't have the $60,000. Anything on that, the town has come, they've closed off only one house. They put their fencing around it, the town of Hempstead. Why was that not done to every single piece of property that does not have their bulkheading complete? Why only one person? Is it because somebody complained about it? Because then I got to complain about everybody. It's not fair.
I'll have to ask the Commissioner of Buildings about that. I'm not sure about the fence, but the issue with the bulkheading, obviously there was some of the homeowners there thought that they were getting New York Rising money, and then I believe were denied that money. So now it's really what the state is saying, that it's in their hands to fix it. One of the things that we've explored in the town of Hempstead, which we can start that discussion again, the only way to really alleviate this issue, I would say once and for all, and I don't know if it's going to alleviate it completely, would be to start almost a special tax district for the people that live along that canal. And what would happen is it would have to go out for public referendum. The people who are in that area that would be affected by it, the homeowners, the taxpayers, would have to vote. And if you guys choose, or those that live on the canal, choose to start this special taxing district, the town would then impose a tax, and we would fix all the bulkheading and make it the same height, so that if one person does not decide to, there would be like a no opt-in clause. If you're part of the special district, you would have to be affected by the special tax district.
Okay, so you would only get this special tax if you opt in, like I have already done mine. So I
No,
would
so
not.
what I'm saying is that it would be a public referendum. So we would identify who is affected along those canals, both California Place North and South, identify the homes, and we would actually have a vote. And you would, just like you were to vote in any other election, you would go into a ballot, you would vote, and if it is approved, even if it's approved, I'm just using round numbers, 25, 24, it still goes forward. The town would then rebuild the bulkheading along the entire canal on both sides.
Okay, so then it would be everybody on California Place South would get this tax, even though your bulkheading is complete.
That's correct.
Okay, that's not good. That doesn't work.
I'm just telling you that that's an option that's being explored, because the town is not going to go in and just rebuild everyone's bulkhead on the arm.
Okay, so what is the town going to do about these homeowners that don't have bulkheading and it's coming through onto the street? A fence doesn't do anything for that?
Well, I mean, is Commissioner Rockamp here? Okay.
Only that, but why only that one property? When you drive down California Place South, you don't see all the other homes that look just like that home? Like, why just that home? Is it a pick and choose thing? Like, I don't understand. But you didn't see all the other homes that have the same exact?
We received a complaint about that specific property, so we put up a fence for safety reasons. If we have other addresses that you'd like to give me, I'd be more than happy to go out and look at them as well.
And Commissioner, and I'm not even certain of this, is it in our building code, or would it be something that the Conservation and Waterways Debate Constables handles, writing? Is there any summonses that could be issued for a failed bulkhead?
That's Conservation and Waterways.
Okay.
So are you saying that's who I contact, or is that who you contact?
Well, I will contact them.
Okay.
Those summonses will have to be issued by the Bay Constables.
Okay. So when our road does start to get redone, and, you know, everybody has these bulkheading that really don't exist anymore, how are they going to redo our road?
That's going to be an engineer issue, Commissioner. I mean,
that's a good question, but if you look at it the way it's set up, I mean, the road is set back from the bulkhead. There's land between the bulkhead and the road, so we believe that,
That's my property, and I've
Yep.
done my bulkheading, but I can actually show you a picture. This is actually a picture of where, that's the fence that the town of Hempstead put up. So there is their old bulkhead. They have nothing there. So it's all water. What would you do in a case like that? Which is majority.
Commissioner, just for the respect of time and the other people that are waiting, if there's no other issues, would you mind sitting with the commissioner in the back, and maybe you guys can identify the problems and go from there? Just fill me in after you've spoken.
Okay.
Next person is Shafi Masrika, Hicksville. He's leaving. He has to go to a meeting. Write it down for him. We'll give it to him. Why don't you write your question down? We'll give it to you. Write it down. Okay. Go ahead, sir. Would you please give your name and address?
Masriki, Hicksville, New York.
Your address, please.
5 Elmira Street.
Okay, go ahead.
Basically, I have a food truck, East Meadow Walmart, and we haven't had no problems for 5 years. And recently, had some complaints, and whatever it was, we took care of it with the person that complained about it. I have a petition signed from like about 900 people within 2 weeks, and none of those customers have any complaints about anything.
Mr. Rob, would you address that, please?
Basically, I want to get a variance so we don't have to move every 15 minutes and extend the stay.
Yeah, somebody came to this meeting.
Yeah,
the last meeting we had,
yes.
and complained about your truck being there on Newbridge Road, right by Walmart. Is that the truck
correct.
that we're talking about? That's been there for years, and Mr. Lataki owned the hot dog truck that was there before.
Yeah, and that person is here. He's with me.
Since I had hair. That's how long ago he was there. And everybody loves the hot dogs there. Everybody loves those trucks. But we did receive a complaint, and the town has to work on complaint-driven. We just don't go and inspect people just for the heck of it. It has to be complaint-driven. So we got the complaint, and we investigated. We sent, I think, the building department there, or whoever it was.
Public safety and code enforcement came.
Okay, so that's, and now you have.
A petition, because the thing is I
would like a copy of those petitions, because I'd like to show the people that complain the other end of the spectrum. The issue is the town code would have to be changed. The town code, actually, you do move the truck like every 15 minutes?
Truck, but the thing is we're serving food on the grill, and 15 minutes is too little for us to serve the customers when you have about 10 to 15 customers waiting. And then we have to close it up, the awning, and then move to a different location, and the customers have to follow us. And that's also a safety, it's a hazard for them to do that.
And the only food establishments that are in the area adjacent to you are Burger King, which is not hot dogs or what you serve.
Even we have workers in Mama Teresa's, they even come to us and order food from us as well. So we had no issues with anybody else. It was a security guard that used to work, which is working in that parking lot. That was the problem. And I've talked to him, and I've resolved everything with him.
Okay, did it come to you, Commissioner Roykamp?
The short answer, though, is that the town code would have to be changed.
Right.
There'd have to be a public hearing on whether or not we want to change the town code. Because the code now reads he has to move every 15 minutes. If the code has to have an exemption or exception to the rule when it has a grill of that length of time, we would have to write legislation and put it in for that, correct? That is correct. All right, so if you'd like, I'll investigate it with the board and see if that's a doable thing for us to do, what the ramifications of it would be, because it could open Pandora's box to have, tailgating, and we don't want, that to happen on our main street. So, please stay in touch with Patrick. Would you go and talk with Patrick, and we'll see what we can do, and what the do's and don'ts are, and we'll try to work with you.
Yeah, and I know this was before pertaining to ice cream trucks, but now there's a new thing with the food trucks coming along. So I know that code was enforced while there was ice cream trucks involved.
Well, I'll also add, I think Gary Hughes spearheaded that movement. Is that right, Mr. Ra?
Correct.
And I remember when I first started meeting with Gary and a lot of local business people, and I think the issue is a lot of these local business people pay high amount of taxes, and the concern is that the mom and pop bagel shop, the deli, who are completely dependent upon the local residents for their livelihood and pay these high taxes, and the food trucks don't pay the same taxes. So that was the issue. I mean, I think it was about 3 years ago that we had this.
But we are moving into storefronts. We just opened up a store in Levittown as well, a storefront. So we are paying those taxes as well.
Okay, I'm not sure that all I mean, we can have a conversation about it, but the idea was to prevent the local business person who's paying taxes from, and that's the issue.
Yeah, so I do have a storefront, I do have a food truck. You start off small and then you move up big.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I started right now.
Okay.
So we just started having this issue recently after 5 years almost. We never had an issue with the town whatsoever.
But we'll look into it because we did get a complaint. We will look into it, and we'll discuss, the history, because I'm here since June 6th.
Yeah.
So I don't really know the history of what the town has done in the past. So I'll educate myself on it, and then we'll meet. And I might not come with the answer you want, but we will investigate and try to get something that is good for both sides.
All right, thank you very much.
And the petition, if you can get.
Yes. I can get more. Yeah, I can send it to him.
Okay.
Yeah, make copies of it and give them the originals back, or vice versa, if you, whatever we can do. But,
Well, if you want to bring them back.
don't respond to the audience. You're talking with the audience is very rude.
Councilman, ask a member of your staff to go make copies. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please let him speak and let him listen to her, what she's saying. Go ahead. If you go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and make copies.
Okay, you know what, Jude? Give it to Patrick, and you're going to meet with Patrick right now anyway, so give that to Patrick. We'll make copies, so my office will have it, and we'll try to get some kind of resolution, and you know, I'm so glad you came down, because we heard the other side, and now we heard your side, so I'm glad that you took the time to come down here. It was important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Charles Hanson, are you with him? Name and address, please, sir.
My name is Charles Hanson. My address is 32 Croydon Lane, Hicksville, New York. This is an extension to what he's saying. In this county, we have a problem, okay? The vehicles that are licensed and doing everything that they're supposed to get harassed, while people come in from other states and get permits from the Board of Health and everybody else, and they have out-of-state plates, okay? Nobody should be getting permits for serving food or vending in this county or in this state if they're not registered and insured in this state, okay? Because everybody else has different laws. Virginia, he doesn't have commercial plates, which means that he could have minimum coverage in Virginia, which means $20,000 a person or less, okay? And if somebody gets hurt, then everybody else that's going by the law and is covered properly is the ones that get held for it.
That sounds completely reasonable. Are we missing something?
The Board of Health, Nassau County Board of Health would be the one who's issuing those permits, not us.
We would have no involvement with it.
The whole thing is it's not just the Board of Health. It's also you go into the local permits, the vendors' permits. They go. There's no contact between two agencies, and they should be, to make sure these people are all doing the right thing. Okay, everybody goes off in their own direction, does what they want. Okay, and the guy who's going by the law, like the food truck he's talking about that we're involved in, we have everything, including compensation, liability, commercial plates. We have all different kinds of liability insurance and everything else. And we have a guy that goes and parks in front of us that caused the problem with this other person. That his name is Foodzilla. That's got Virginia plates on it. And he's not only that. My question to his character is, he could be there for 9 hours, and nobody goes to him, and nobody sees anything wrong with that. Okay. Where is the different guys, the different cops and stuff like that see stuff like this and don't go and inform? This guy could be asleep before what everybody knows. He's standing there doing no business. He's creating a problem. He hasn't got the proper plates. He hasn't got the proper insurance, and he's allowed to be there. He shouldn't be.
Like I said before to the other gentleman, the town works on complaints with complaint-driven inspections. So if you see this and you know this, you call my office and we will send out the building department or the public safety or even call the police.
Send somebody. But if he's got Board of Health permits and he's got permits from whatchamacallit, I can't even think of the office upstairs. Right. Okay, and they don't look at the plates. There's no regulation. There's no regulation that says you have to be registered and insured in the state of New York to be serving vended food. I mean, this isn't. I can understand if somebody's doing a fair and they move from one state to another, but when a person goes and decides they're going to make a spot or make a town, the place that they're doing business in, they should be.
Do you have a location that you can give us?
The location that the same location by Walmart in East Meadow. The guy comes in there late at night. Okay, he's got a white truck. It says Foodzilla on it, And if you look, he's got one big, huge tank of gas in the back, and he's got Virginia Place next to that tank.
What's the name on it? What is the name on the truck?
Foodzilla.
Foodzillo?
Godzilla,
Yeah, Foodzilla.
Foodzillo.
but he's not God.
I mean, he ain't going to do much business with that name in Nassau County anyways. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. My point is, he's next to a shopping center. He's not doing any business. He's got a huge tank of propane there. He thinks that he's dominating the world, and he is. He is, because you want to know something? Everybody's looking at the guy who's trying to go by the law, and the guy who's not going by the law, nobody's paying attention to.
We'll look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention.
That's why I did it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Valerie Lamb.
Let me know, John. Thank you.
Hello again. Valerie Lamp Baldwin. So, hold on one second. Quick question. I noticed earlier that a gentleman was able to access and display some pictures on that screen. Are we, the taxpayers and residents, also able to do that if we wanted to put a picture or video up? Mr. Ra?
I believe this is an IT question, but I believe that the technology only is available for the public hearings to put artist renderings and those kinds of things up on the screen.
But what?
It's only available for public hearings, zoning applications, and those kinds of things that come before the board. I believe the technology is only available for that.
Okay. So no, we don't get that privilege.
Once again, I'll check with IT, but I believe that the technology is only available for the public hearings.
Okay, so out of curiosity, if I were to bring, let's say, a portable projector screen or something, if I wanted to be able to just show a picture to the council members and my representative and Supervisor Gillen, is there anything prohibiting me from doing that?
I don't know.
Okay.
So if you have pictures you want to show us, you're welcome to show them to us.
I do. I'm not going to do it right now, but I promise I'll get to it. All right. Moving on. So let's go to the animal shelter, my number one priority. I just wanted to read a statement to you because it's my understanding that the toxic food is still being distributed to the dogs on a daily basis, specifically the bagels, which are comprised of wheat, which is not good for them. I want to be clear on this because I believe I know the counter move, okay? This is not about just getting them to stop feeding them bagels. This is I want to get to the root of the issue, okay, which is the people who are making these decisions are not, in my opinion, and many, many others, competent. I don't know any vet or any animal lover who is apprised of food to be distributed that would call everything bagels, which have garlic, onion, poppy seeds, and wheat, which are all toxic for dogs. Nobody would say that's a good idea. Okay, so either maybe they want to kill them slowly. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is, but before I read a statement from an accredited behaviorist, I just wanted to, well, he's not here right now, but for the record, Councilman Dunn, first of all, we're not rude. We're here, we wanted to help the young man that was just here before me, giving him a little piece of advice. But also, we are not an audience, we're the residents. And we care. We're coming here and we're wasting, I shouldn't say wasting. It feels like an episode in futility. We're here because we care. We're here because we're trying to create a better township as well. We're interested in our government. Isn't this what everyone encourages all the time? And we're trying to make positive differences. We research. We take time to help our representatives perhaps make positive changes. So we're not rude. Okay, and by the way, we have sat through many meetings where people were rude to us. So I think that's fair. A statement from an accredited behaviorist, a real one. Puzzle toys are a great way to offer mental stimulation, but that is because the animal must puzzle out how to get the food. It is employed by zoos as well, but just providing frozen food, like the bagels that we're providing to these dogs, the frozen bagels, just providing frozen food or chewies only takes them time to consume, but does not provide any of the essential mental gymnastics that are so essential to their well-being. That's that. Getting back to Porter Vet Clinic, I just want this on the record because you have to excuse my skepticism, but I'm entitled to it. Mr. Pitnick? Mitch? Hey. I just want, in all fairness, he came up to me with the W-9, which was submitted in February by Porter. It is not signed. Is that accurate? The W-9 is not signed because I was told I can't take a picture of it and I have to foil it. So I just want to make sure that it's on the record that the W-9 submitted by this mystery company, which I promise you, you know me, I am like a dog with a bone. No pun intended. I will find out who is behind that company, why they were picked, and why they're even submitting a W-9 when they are not the parent company of the actual DBA, the vet in Farmingdale that we outsource those services to. The parent company is Pet Vet. Porter's phone number leads you to Rivergate Veterinary Clinic in Manhattan. They have never heard of Porter. They have no affiliation to them. And ironically, Rivergate's parent company is also Pet Vet. So I'm on this, and I promise you I'll bring it to you. You know I will. Thank you.
Mary Ellen Cray. I believe did you use all your time?
This is for you. You said you take care of Point Lookout, correct?
And Lido.
And Lido. There's a piece of property at Ted's Fishing Station. I brought it up a while back, and I did leave a message in your office. I'm not sure if someone called me back. But there's a piece of property at Ted's Fishing Station that the town of Hempstead turned over. That was the taxpayers' money. They turned it over to the Point Lookout Firehouse, and it was before Anthony D'Exposito's election, and a lot of money was campaigned to him. It was sold for $750,000. There's been a lot of talk about it, that it was done illegally. They sat down here with the board. Anthony D'Exposito, his father, says, don't worry about it. You're not going to have a problem with us. You're going to have a problem with the firehouse. You have to pay this much money. It was a piece of property that was the taxpayer, and it did sell for $750,000 that the owner of Ted's Fishing Station's hands were tied and had to buy it, or he would have been out of business. It was a grandfathered in piece of property, and it's a great deal of concern as a taxpayer here in Nassau County how they turned that piece of property over. Am I able to call your office to get more information on it?
You can talk to Alex, Alex over there. He'll talk to you about it.
Thank you so much.
You got it. You could also follow up with my office as well. I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about that.
And I'll give you a lot of documentations that we'll put in my mailbox in my office.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And just a random piece of information, not on this issue, just following up from the previous speaker. My daughter is an avid horseback rider, and we feed horses fresh garlic. Not comparing exactly horses and dogs. There might be different stomachs, but I do know that fresh garlic is great for horses. So.
Ms. Cray.
Thank you. Mary Ellen Cray, 436 Locust Avenue, Uniondale. I do have a question back on the Macon Place property. When it was boarded up, would somebody have that information or be able to get it to me at some particular time? I think we bought the property in November.
Commissioner.
Yes, we'd be able to get you that information. If you'd like to come up right after the meeting, we'll have that for
Very
you.
good. Thank you. On the strip malls, you said that there is no moratorium on the strip malls, but I'm hoping that some kind of effort would be made to craft an ordinance relating to the strip malls, density, and so on and so forth, since they seem to be such a plethora of them in this area, and they just seem, everybody thinks, well, there's a piece of property put in a strip mall, there must be something else that's more appropriate and better for our community. So I'm hoping that you will look into it. Wondering about a tree ordinance. Is there something relating to the removal of trees?
We do have a tree ordinance, and we do have restrictions on removal of trees, and I'd be glad to go over it with you after the meeting, if you want.
Is there a requirement for a permit? So then, in relation to Holly Patterson property, where they want to put in all those homes, we have a feeling that all those trees lining the street are scheduled for removal. Is there?
I don't know exactly. I haven't seen the plans, but the building department can help you with that.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals tomorrow will be discussing the Holly Patterson property, and I'm wondering, in view of the predicted severity of the snow accumulation, do these hearings go on no matter what, or is there at times a postponement?
Well, the Board of Zoning Appeals will make that decision. I can tell you that Town Hall will be open, so the Board of Zoning Appeals will make their own determination as to whether or not they want to reschedule.
How will we know?
The only thing I can think, call the Board of Zoning Appeals in the morning and see what they say. It'll certainly be online if they decide to adjourn.
I see. Thank you. Just a little note of levity here. My husband is a Korean War veteran, and one day we went to Home Depot, and he said, I always park in a certain spot, and he said, why don't you park in my spot? And I said to him, you have a spot? And he said, yes, there's a sign over there that says for active military and veterans. So he very happily parked in his spot. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, I'm hoping that you are continuing your advocacy for our concerns relating to the laundromat proposal for Front Street in Uniondale. I understand that it's a decision has not been made, and I'm hoping that some way or other we can prevent that from happening, and certainly not a strip mall in addition to it, because that really is even worse. Okay.
Because I don't want to see a strip mall there, nor do I want to see a laundromat.
Thank you. And I have to say, it is a relief to have more order and courtesy in the conduct of these meetings. It is such a difference, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Thank you for your moment of levity. Nancy Skeeks? Oh, okay. Pearl Jacobs?
Good afternoon, Pearl Jacobs, President of the Nostrand Garden Civic Association in Uniondale. At our meeting last night, at the Nostrand Garden Civic Association meeting last evening, there was a contentious exchange between the school district administrators and the community, and it was regarding overcrowding of the Uniondale School District. In attendance from the Uniondale School District was the district administrator for central registration, the business finance director, and the district investigator for registration. And there's only one investigator for the entire Uniondale School District, which is appalling. Excuse me?
Oh, I thought.
Yeah, it's appalling that there's only one school investigator for the entire school district of Uniondale, but we told them that at last night's meeting. Of course, you know, the school district, Uniondale School District, is requesting a $144 million bond vote and asking the residents of Uniondale to approve that and vote for that bond vote. And the residents they have serious concerns regarding that bond vote. They have many questions, and one of those many questions is the students that are enrolled. Many of the students that are enrolled in the Uniondale School District live outside of the school district. They do not reside in the school district, and this has been a complaint for a long time now. And the residents are asking, why should the residents, tax-paying residents of Uniondale, bear the burden of increased taxes for students that do not live within the school district? The school district administrator that was there last night stressed that the school district has a serious capacity issue and that this bond vote is necessary to add additional classroom space and upgrades to the Uniondale School District, mainly regarding capacity issues. The school administrators stated that they have nothing to do with the number of students that are enrolled in the Uniondale School District, as they cannot deny admission to any student who seeks an education. And the statement came from the Uniondale school administrator for registration that they placed the blame for over-enrollment squarely on the town of Hempstead for not enforcing the building zoning laws and the community residents for not taking the issue of building issues, violations to the town of Hempstead. The meeting became quite contentious, as many residents stated they have brought forth this issue to the town of Hempstead over the years regarding lack of code enforcement regarding building violations. The school administrators only then did they state that in the past they have approached the town of Hempstead regarding serious building violations as well. They brought this forth to the town of Hempstead. And lack of code enforcement regarding buildings, as you see, has become a serious and contentious issue in the community of Uniondale. Now, I heard here this afternoon that the buildings department code enforcement is complaint driven. Well, not when it comes to Uniondale, because we have brought forth many complaints regarding lack of code enforcement regarding building violations. And as stated by a resident last night at the meeting, he said that it appears that the building department might be strategically impeded from doing their job regarding code enforcement in Uniondale. Okay? That has a lot, connotations to it, but I'm just reiterating what he said. Another resident said that attended my meeting last night said that she suggested a federal lawsuit is warranted against the town of Hempstead on behalf of Uniondale residents due to the fact that the lack of code enforcement is causing an undue burden on the Uniondale School District, which subsequently will create an excess tax burden on the residents of Uniondale due to lack of building code enforcement. I do know, Councilman Gooseby, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, that you are having a community meeting on March 12th.
Has nothing to do with this. But you had a meeting with the supervisor. Did you bring
Yes,
that to
I
her
did.
attention?
I brought it to her.
So then you have it already. She's looking into it, I'm sure.
So I did follow up with an email to Matt, your assistant, and I suggested a follow-up meeting with the team for the commissioner and his team for code enforcement for buildings. And I also, suggested that they can come out and visit us, and we will definitely take them on a tour of Uniondale. And it will be a very professional and guided tour. So this is a serious, serious, serious issue. Mm-hmm. It's becoming a real contentious issue in Uniondale, and the community is demanding action on this.
Right. But I believe when you spoke a couple meetings ago about sanitation enforcement, we sent people out.
Yes.
There was an increase in
sanitation enforcement, and I did state that to you, and I'll state it again, Supervisor Gillen. We have seen a vast improvement in sanitation enforcement, and we do appreciate that, and we thank you for that. But building violations is, like I suggested to you before, I said it to you before, is an issue that needs to be dealt with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for taking over Uniondale.
Thank you again, Supervisor Gillen.
Rory Gordon.
I kind of wish all the council people were here because I really think you all try really hard, and yourself too, Supervisor, to do a good job. It's not easy. You have people coming in here yelling at you, carrying on. They're all upset, and there's a million of them, I'm sure, that aren't coming here because they can't, because they work during the day. With that being said, I have a question. Does the town of Hempstead do commercial inspections?
What kind of inspections exactly are you talking about?
Like the building that you used to work in? That big, tremendous building?
Commissioner?
Shopping centers, that's a commercial building, an industrial building.
Good afternoon. The town does inspections on restaurants, places of public assembly. We do not inspect office buildings and buildings like that.
So their safety doesn't count? Is that the way I'm understanding it? See, here's the problem with the commissioner not knowing what he's supposed to know. If you read the code, and I'm going to read the code from you, it is 19 CRR-NY 1203.3, New York CRR. I spend a lot of time reading. Anyway, property maintenance inspection. Property maintenance inspection of all multiple dwellings and all non-residential occupancies at intervals consisting with local conditions. No event shall such intervals exceed 1 year for dormitory buildings or 3 years for all other buildings, which means they have to be inspected. And they're not. And that's very concerning to me because I take a lot of rides on elevators to see attorneys in the town of Hempstead.
Well, I can't comment on that because you're calling for a legal conclusion. I'd have to consult with our attorney, and I've never, I have not looked into this issue, so I'll look into this issue and I'll discuss it further with the commissioner and the town attorney as well.
Okay, and I also foiled this document, Uniform Code Administration and Enforcement Report, reporting year 2016. And it says here, commercial/industrial occupancies, number of occupancies in this municipality, 526, which I don't think is correct. Number of occupancies inspected in this municipality, 0. So that should concern all of you because this building, any town building, any building, school, should be inspected by code enforcement. There's violations everywhere you look. And I would appreciate it if you would check into that. And lastly, I did a FOIL. And the FOIL is for inspections on 625 RXR Plaza, Uniondale. I believe that's where your law office.
No, I worked in 1201 RXR Plaza.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's a big building, this particular building. And it says here, in regards to your FOIL request, annual inspections are not required for commercial buildings. And this is sent out by John Novello, the Deputy Commissioner of the Building Department. Apparently, he is not aware of the law either. I made a copy of this for you so you can have it. And I'm just an average lay person. The only reason I know what I know is because of my litigation. And now I'm devoted my life to being in the building department and sitting online at home reading to see all the problems and why there are problems, because people are not doing their jobs. And as I said before, you folks weren't, aware of the gentleman that died. But he died at the fault of the building department, and there was an undisclosed amount made in 1995. It's all online. Michael Uttenweiser, you can FOIL it, and it's a very sad story. He was walking with his mother, and the whole side of the building came down right off of Bedford Avenue. That's before Commissioner Rodkamp's time. I wouldn't expect maybe him to know that. I would expect the old timers to know it. Mr. Dunn, he was around at that time. And that's it. Here's your copy. Can you please pass that up to the supervisor?
give it to
Oh,
the
and
clerk.
yes,
Thank
one
you.
last thing. I don't dislike Commissioner Rodkamp. I just dislike when people are given jobs that they are not in the right position for. I'm sure he's a great asset when it comes to firematics. I read his resume over and over and over again. And quite frankly, he is a nice guy. So I'm not picking on him. He just, unfortunately, is in that seat, and he's the only one I can direct the questions to.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Jim Alkus.
Jim Alkus, 238 Broadway, Amityville. I have a question for John Rockcamp as well.
What is the question, sir?
A code question.
This is really an opportunity for you to make comments, so please just make your comments.
Okay. Well, my comment is in reference to the code, but I wanted to also ask how the investigation was going from his department into the monitor and the translator that they alleged that they gave me that never was given to me. I know you're new, Mrs. Gillen, so you weren't here, but I did email the entire board because it was stated that a monitor and a tutor translator was issued to me, and I think that would be simple to investigate to see if there was any truth to it. Yet I've never heard a word on that. And besides that, I wanted to give credit where credit's due. Mr. Rod did keep his word to me, so I wanted to, I personally speak the truth. So, Mr. Rod, thank you for keeping your word. He's one of the only people around here in the departments that did. He attempted to put something together, and it evidently didn't work out due to a code. But I was hoping that Mr. Rodkamp could just, I can't speak to what I want to without asking him a question.
Are you asking about the monitors?
I'm asking him a question about a code that has to do with something in the building department.
What is your question?
I want to know if he knows the code, what 705-10-2 is.
I'm sure he hasn't memorized the entire town code. Why don't you read it to us?
It's simple. It's that the minimum standard is 3/4. So I just wanted to know, I just keep hearing about his resume all day today. I wasn't aware that his resume was what was said. I don't know if it's factual. I just heard it. But a standard minimum, if you have a standard minimum, it wouldn't make a difference how much bigger it is. It would just be a standard minimum. So if your standard minimum was 1 inch and you were, say, 3 inches, it would still meet code requirements. And what I'm saying is that that was the statement in the last test that they decided to come up with. So the code that, in fact, they cited incorrectly in the new book is 705.10.2, and it's a minimum standard of 3/4, 3/4 on a brass, 3/4 on a lead. But if you want to pull it 3 inches, you could. And then also, the old code was 905.3 in the blue book prior to that. But I personally am certified in the lead wipe, and I took class from a civil servant, thank God, that didn't have any ties to anything. And I did that in the 2000s. And his name was John, and he was from Smithtown, and he did the BOCES classes. But I'm very well versed in it. I have already done it and taken it in Suffolk County. And it just seems to be every single time there's a different reason. It just amazes me. But being level-headed as most of you are, I did figure I'd bring you each a picture, because the reason they said that this was no good this time was because, in their opinion, it was too wide. But I'll leave a copy for each one, as you can see. I've never seen one that good, but they said it was too wide. But just so you guys know, being attorneys, They didn't measure it, but they said it was too wide. And just so you know, it was taped off to 2 inches. You put your fingers down. I would say it was probably approximately 1 5/8 inches, maybe 1 7/8 inches, but it's only a minimum standard. So I've actually could have did it 3 inches. And I even had, because I had a feeling that I was going to be sandbagged, so I brought 2 pieces with me. I brought one from the Plumbing Supply factory made that was 1.5 inches, and I brought one from the Plumbing Supply that was 3 inches. So after they go, oh, it wasn't exactly 1.5 inches. Now, I know a lot of people here aren't plumbers, but when you take something with your fingers and go around, you can't make anything exactly 1.5 inches. It's actually impossible. That's why it's only a minimum standard, not a maximum. And on another thing, somebody came up here and spoke about the propane tank. That's actually very dangerous. So very, very dangerous. So I'd take a look at that. Safety. It's supposed to be between the frame rails, and anything over 20 pounds even has to be in between the frame rails. So, but thank you for your time, and hopefully one day there will be an adult on the in the building department to go through this. But I brought enough for everybody, or I could email it to you. But I did show it to 2 other towns, and they both just can't believe it. The chairmen of the other plumber boards.
You can hand them to the clerk, and she can give them out to the town council members.
Thank you.
Stuart Kroll. Jack McCloy. Joseph Salatini. About street repair, Joseph's, no? Mita Meriday?
Rita Meriday Baldwin. Okay. I too am concerned that this meeting, this forum, is the opportunity for the public to be heard for the, if I understand correctly, what Councilman Dunn said, that this is complaint-driven, and then the board acts on the complaints of the constituency. I guess I'm the only one who can't complain. But there should be the window of opportunity when the public is here. For those of us, I'm saying because other residents did have to leave because, unfortunately, many of them probably have to work 2 and 3 jobs to equate some of the salaries that are paid here.
If I could just jump in for 1 moment, please stop Ms. Meriday's time. So I understand your concern, and it's something I've been talking about with Councilwoman King Sweeney and other members of the town board. In North Hempstead, they did move the public comment section to the beginning of the town board meeting so that people, if they had to, they didn't have to wait till the very end of the meeting in order to let their voices be heard. The issue that we have is that we have to notice public hearings for a specific time. So if we do that, and if we have public comment first, in North Hempstead, what they do is they have a half-an-hour window for public comment. So depending on how many slips, you have to reduce the time. You couldn't, we probably couldn't get through public comment with everybody having 5 minutes because we just don't know how many people are going to be there. So it's something that I think all the council members are willing to try and see if it works. If that's an idea, to try to get people to be able to get in, have their moment, and then leave and go off to wherever they have to go off to. So
Right.
it's something we're discussing and we think would be useful, but we want people in the public to understand that if we do that, we will probably have to shorten the time frame just so everybody can get in before the notice public hearings, because they are noticed for a specific time.
Right. Because what they do in the county is they have allocated 30 minutes in the beginning. So that basically gives you at least 10 people have a shot, but they have an opportunity to be heard so that they can go pick up their child or their spouse or whatever the case may be. So I appreciate the fact that you are considering
And
that aspect of it.
the board is very receptive of this idea and very supportive of this idea, and I think it's something that we could move forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we could try to figure something out. I mean, I think we're all in agreement on this. I was here before. We had the 5 minutes, we had the 3, and I mean, this isn't a scientific data point, but I think more people got to speak with the 3 versus the 5. So I think the 5 was well-meaning, but how do we figure this out and get as many people in as possible to speak?
Right.
So there's no perfect answer.
Right.
But I think we all have the same goal.
Okay. As long as the discussion is there and in place. I am also very concerned, again, with regard to, and everyone who speaks their passion and their mission, I'm staying on mission and staying passionate about my concerns with regard to the veteran development component, from a community development, an economic development, and business development component. And I should not be the only one that sits here and, from my standpoint, feeling like I'm being attacked or having my intellectual property compromised when I see things that are happening where you have qualified people who sit in this audience and volunteer their information and their resources, and they are verbally attacked. And that is basically, it's just not right.
Nobody here wants to see anybody attacked. I'm trying to keep this forum very polite and respectful. I ask that of the members of the gallery. I ask that of the members of the town board. And so far, it's been going pretty well. I'm sorry that you were upset by Councilman Dunn's comment, but I intend this to be a very respectful forum.
I get that. I mean, I don't give that credence. I'm just putting it on the table. That's, that just rolls off the back for me. But it still pertains to the reporting. And if we have, moving forward, if this administration is going to be responsive to the needs, the fact that you were elected and others were not reelected is because the needs were not being addressed, and there were blatant activities that were taking place within this township that are costing, and still clearly costing us dollars, from the number of times that you have said yourself these activities happened before you got here. But you're here now. So the buck really does start and stop with you to make those things happen. And for me to ask for accountability and some record keeping, just to be told, well, I'm not going to repeat what I said to you at the last meeting, that's not good enough. And I should not be the only one who says that that's not good enough, that we're in 2018 and we have no viable strategic plan, outline, benchmark, or reporting process that documents the comprehensive activities that are needed for the 40,000 plus veterans and their families that live in this township. That is beyond appalling. It is beyond it. So I'm looking now to you as the supervisor to represent the interests of these 40,000 plus veterans that we see the documentation. You don't need to do all of the mailings to address the need for outreach, okay? I don't need to come to you and say, here's a listing of veterans. I can give you a listing of veteran-owned businesses. A majority of them do upwards of $5 million in business. What contract opportunity is available for them? Can they afford to just sit on a list? That's not it. Let's talk about audits as it pertains to true diversity from a supplier diversity standpoint and a workforce diversity standpoint. You still have workers who work for this township who still are afraid to come forward to address their issues. So where is that model? Who is doing, as someone said earlier, these consultants that are coming forward to do the training? There are lawsuits still waiting to happen in this township. We need to be proactive in a better way. Just one example, when somebody wants solutions, City Rising, the Attorney General's office, funding that's geared towards addressing blighted homes, blighted communities. Why isn't the town of Hempstead one of the over 17 communities that are listed getting the money that's been allocated from the Attorney General's office? Huntington's on the list. North Hempstead's on the list. Where is the town of Hempstead? If we're supposed to be number one, we're supposed to be first, we're supposed to be America's township. Why are we so invisible on the list at the taxpayer's expense? Too many questions that are still unanswered. We need to have the answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mariday. I'll follow up with you after this meeting. Lucille Defina.
Hi. I'd like to still go back and discuss the medical situation. I understand we have RFPs coming out. I believe one is for the behaviors, the other one is for a veterinarian, an in-house veterinarian, or a contracted outside veterinarian?
Contracted outside veterinarian.
So like another Dr. Singh, where even though it's a contracted vet, he's on the premises, or is it, yeah, it would have to be, or else there would be no other reason to have an RFP?
Mitch Pitnick, counsel to the supervisor. The RFP for outside veterinary services is for the emergency care services, similar to the discussion we've been having today with, you know, surrounding Porter and New York Vet. So for that type of service.
Oh, so we're going to continue with the vet care that we have the way we have it. Because Dr. Singh basically just does all the surgeries and spay and neuter. So you never see him. He's stuck in a van all day, and rightfully so. He has to do surgeries or whatever, mostly spay neuter. And then we're paying between Dr. Singh and Dr. Siegel, that's close to $300,000 right there. But we still need vet care. We still need regular surgeries, such as animals come in with tumors or broken limbs, or we don't have any vet who can do that. So what is, it just doesn't seem right to me that we already have $300,000 allocated for 2 vets, and now we're going to have a third, and this person's going to be emergency. I'm sorry. So we're going to have then 3 emergency vets.
No, the RFP is the contracts for the existing arrangements that we have with New York Vet and Central Vet. Those are set to expire later on this year. So we're going out.
So we're doing an RFP for just contracts instead of just putting it out to bid?
We're trying to find a new vet to provide emergency services, one that will be thoroughly vetted, no pun intended, and will provide excellent services to the town of Hempstead Animal Shelter.
I'm not an expert on RFPs. I thought when you're hiring a contracted service, as in a behaviorist or a veterinarian that's in-house, you would need an RFP. The other services that are all outside, it always was done, for as long as I can remember, as a bid.
And that's what we're doing.
So that's it? It's the same thing?
For purposes of our conversation, it's the same thing. There are different things in the method, but the award's going to be the same. The town's going to be looking to get the best services at, good.
How can we feel certain about that? Because who will be actually looking at these bids? Especially in the case of the behaviors. We've had this discussion, Mitch. History just is repeating themselves. We're just on a terrible roller coaster and just want to get off. So now we're going through the same thing again. In the past, the people who hired and chose the people who were awarded these contracts had no knowledge of any of this, especially when you talk about behaviors. You could see how complicated it is, how many levels there are, how many opinions there are. You really need people who are specialists in this field. I'm nervous because we have, just like what happened today, contracted vets that are not getting paid, and a contracted vet is negotiating with them. And then we have like the Tales of Hope Fund, which is giving away money to vets and sanctuaries and other places. And we have our in-house vet on the committee approving and awarding those people money. I mean, I don't think these people should be in charge of these contracts or choosing the people. It is definitely a conflict of interest, and they're people that are working within the same field. How do you, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but that's how kickbacks happen. That's how favors happen. People who are working in these fields already should not be in charge of choosing and deciding who else is going to be awarded money in the same fields that they are handling. It makes perfect sense.
I can assure you that when this next provider is selected, it won't be because of any kickbacks.
But will there be an outside oversight committee? There will. I mean, who do you have that can do this? You don't have the shelter director shouldn't be doing it either. So you have a shelter that does not have people that can be trusted from their choices in the past. So what is going to be done differently this time? I guess that's what I'm asking. What are we doing differently?
So we haven't received the RFPs yet. They'll be published Friday, and they'll be posted on the website on Friday. I know the supervisor and the town board are committed to doing the right thing for the animal shelter. I can't speak for anything that happened during the past, for any past year. You know that. I've said that to you before. That's speaking for the supervisor as well. She can't speak to anything.
But who will make the decisions?
She can't speak to anything that's happened in the past. But so a panel will be put together.
Panel will be put together, outside entity panel of experts, of people who know and understand.
I can't confirm that. I believe that it may be inside people, but at this ultimatum where they will be reviewed by qualified people. It hasn't even been published yet, so a decision could be made on who will be on this team of people reviewing it. And we could speak about that. You could speak about it at other board meetings if you have suggestions. We're happy to listen to it, but whether it's inside
we
people
always
or
have
not,
suggestions, and they're just not being heard. Yes, you need.
We spoke after the last meeting, and I asked for your patience in dealing with some.
I know, but we're here now. You have RFPs going out. You're in search of another behaviors. We got to do this differently.
I'd asked for a month, and that was on February 20th, so we're not quite there yet. I'd appreciate it if you can give the town board a little bit more time, the supervisor more time to move forward with proposals that are in place right now and in the works right now.
But could I add, Mr. Pitnick, from the board perspective, we didn't know that there was an RFP going out for a veterinarian. So if you could include the board in that important conversation, I think that would be helpful to alleviate some of your, Ms. DeFina's concerns.
I know the supervisor.
That wouldn't help me. That doesn't make me feel any better, no. I'm sorry.
Councilwoman, I would just say that the supervisor mentioned at the last meeting that that 2 RFPs.
No, we knew about the behaviorist, not the veterinarian.
Okay, there's a difference of opinion on that. But either way, I do take issue with you saying that we're not listening to your concerns, because I've spent so much time focusing on the animal shelter. I have been listening to your concerns, and that's why we're moving forward with all these new initiatives.
All right, just so then please, it's very important to us to see that people who are actually looking at these contracts, looking at people that are being hired for the shelter, are hiring people that are very qualified and have a reason to be there. It needs to be an oversight committee of some, just like you really wanted an outside investigator, we want the same thing for the animal shelter. This has gone on way too long.
I think we all want to hire the most qualified people that we can hire.
Thank you.
Stephanie Capuano.
Stephanie Capuano in Montauk. How are you? I'm here. You're probably not going to like what I have to say, but I'm here because it's my opinion that the current director of the town of Hempstead Animal Shelter should be removed. I would like to see an official. Also, I would like to see an official job description. I mean, when I was working at Estee Lauder, we had job descriptions, not from 1995. They were updated. And I would like to know when it was last updated. And I would also like to know if he can't even handle all his finances and there's mounting evidences, then he should be out while he's in all this turmoil and the shelter's under fire. And I mean, it's crazy already. Why can't he just be transferred out? I know he's got allegations, but you said even last time that there was horrible accusations and mounting evidence against him that have to be investigated. Well, you don't have to answer me now. I'm here with much work to do later. I'm preparing for a storm. I'm protecting all these homeless animals. And during one storm, I was told he was worried about getting home. This isn't really a 9-to-5 job. This is, you know, he's indifferent in my opinion. I don't know. I might need a lawyer with me next time. But I have a lawyer from Wantor, Tom Terrell. He's great. So, but he doesn't even walk through rooms. I would be sleeping overnight to ensure the animals were safe. I'm a simple person, but I'm sincere. I love horses. I like all animals. I believe that the shelter, I will not let go of it until he's removed, and not calling living animals inventory. Who does that? Who calls living animals inventory to be disposed of? I worked hard and I contributed, and I wasn't stopping until we see results. And I'll campaign my heart out again, but I want to see results. I mean, if these are serious allegations, why is he still here? And also, I want to say there's an article that I was reading on compassion and shelter directives, and I thank you for listening, Erin and whoever's here, and thank you. But I really, really believe this, that compassion starts, if a shelter doesn't have a compassionate director, that if they're not disconcerted when a dog or cat is healthy or treatable and is killed, then all the other programs won't be successful. Efforts will be reduced going forward, and the motions, but saving lives will either not improve or will only slightly improve. This is where one person makes all the difference in the world, and that starts with the director. There are signs that a director lacks compassion, but you need to look beyond that. You can see that he might appear to be professional, nice, or polite. One employee can tell you that when he was taking pictures for photo ops with the dogs, he doesn't even like to handle dogs or touch them or touch animals. And a lot of people that I know that work in there that are volunteers don't even see him interacting with the animals. So that's why I wanted to know about the job description. Is it just for finance? If it's just for finance, then he's not doing a good job of that. So I think also, I just want to finish that if he can't stand to hold them, he certainly doesn't have the compassion or the passion to save them. And directors lacking compassion are content in placing the blame for killing on everything but themselves. Their abilities, their lack of ability, they can say things, there's too many animals, pet overpopulation, the shelter is not given adequate funding or charitable contributions. They can say whatever they want. But if a big sign of a director lacking compassion is their save rates. All right, but I'm not going to even get into that. They've been talking about that this whole time. So what I'm trying to say is at the end of all this is a telling characteristic of a compassionate director. They are never satisfied with their results. They want to do more and be better. They want more than anything to see the animal in their care alive and happy in a new home. So let's just take all these into considerations. Thank you, Erin, for listening, that you're here. Thank you. Because I know I loved Peter King. I wish he was here on this board. And thank you. And I just, please, I want something to happen good for our shelter. And I know you're trying, and I just need it to come to fruition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a lovely afternoon. That concludes this meeting.